All right, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Excellent. All right, thank you.
Okay, Bob.
Thank you.
Let me know.
Bob, can you hear me?
We can't hear him.
Oh,
Can you hear me?
now we can. Hi.
All right. Am I coming in loud and clear?
Yes, you are. Very loud and clear.
Oh, same with you. Okay, great.
Fortunately, we have to get a bigger picture of your mug up here so everyone gets to see you. So. I like Bob. I really do. I promise you.
I love Bob too.
All right. We good to go? What's it?
Wayne did it too.
Oh, pulled it out.
It's okay. It's fixed. It's fixed. It's fine. It's fine. We're good.
We are dealing with new technology with the screens. This is all new for us, so. Yeah. All right, we're good? All right, I'd like to call the February 7, 2023 regular Village Council meeting to order. I show the time at 6:05 PM. I show we have a full quorum, including Bob, who is joining us remotely. First up, I'd like to I need a motion to consider allowing council member to participate remotely.
So moved.
All's in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Second, next up, we have adoption of the agenda. Do we have any changes or
Yeah.
subtractions?
I need to move some stuff around. So we're going to move the discussion of Parks and Rec Master Plan, Site-Specific Plan up to presentations number 1. Also under presentations, we're going to move discuss and considering entering the contract with McAdams for the hydraulic study.
That'll be number 2.
That'll be number 2 under presentations. We are going to move the 5K closure consent to the consent agenda. And then we are going to move the elected officials' liability to unfinished number 1. And that's all I have.
Has that been
Yes.
already changed in there? Okay. Thank you.
Is that the move? Was that changed? Was that? Okay.
Okay. Anybody else need to add or subtract anything or change anything? Okay, I'll need a motion to adopt the agenda as amended.
So moved.
Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Next up, we have the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. And next up, we have a public comment period. This is a time where if anyone wants to get up and speak for 3 minutes, you're welcome to do that. There's no dialogue back and forth. Just state your name and address, and we'll give you 3 minutes to talk about whatever you'd like to talk about. Anybody signed up?
Yes. We have Milan Damani of 317 Fox Chase Court.
That'd be correct.
All right, you gonna keep time, Kim? All right, Kim's my timekeeper, so
That's
welcome.
all right. You can cut me off if you want. I can spend hours up here,
We all
but I
can.
won't. So I'm Milan Damani. I'm the HOA president for Marvin Creek.
Okay.
And so recently it's been discovered there's a tire dump in our community. Not only impacts our community, it impacts everything else downstream because it's a hazard. And it actually is flowing into the creek waters and everything else. There's a discussion going on around who is liable for this. But the way I'm looking at it and the way the community is looking at it, we will resolve the issue, at least as we know it, which is basically lifting the tires up and putting it out on the street and have a vendor take it away. We're asking for a couple of things from the village because I don't understand how the precedence is being set for us to own this liability because it predates the existence of the community. We're going to handle it, and I'm not disputing that we should handle it, but I'm a little confused about why, and the way I'm understanding is the principles that are being applied is because it happens in our community, that we need to solve for it by ourselves. That being said, those principles are a little bit outdated because this tar dump pre-exists our establishment of the community. Marvin Creek didn't exist 30 years ago. So it should be something that we're all working together. But again, we'll resolve it. Our assumption is going to cost less than $1,000. We're not experts. So I've had conversations with Derek. I've had conversations with Bob from Marsh. Just looking for some guidance on what we need to do and how we need to do it. And assuming it's less than $1,500, $1,000, we'll just resolve it and call the matter done. But right now, I don't understand the principles that are being applied to us and why we're being asked to solve this on our own. We're just looking for volunteers now and the expertise of the village to clean it up, with the assumption there's no other things that we find that are detrimental associated with the property. That's it.
Okay, thank you. And just refresh my memory, that it's on HOA, what do they call it? Common
Yeah.
area.
So it's in our HOA common area. If it was like 20 feet over, it would be in the common area between us and Tullamore. So it's just because it happens to be on our common area. And do realize our common area, there's about 100, maybe 200 tires. Some of them like 30 plus years old. Most of them 30 plus years old. You'll actually see a tree growing between the tires. And it's about 15, 18 inches wide. So the tire's now in the middle of that tree.
Wow.
So we're going to have to dig it up, clean it up and everything else and move and transport out. Liberty's coming in to help us move those tires away from the property and everything else. But as the board and I met about it, we're a little confused about how this is an HOA responsibility when it predates us.
Okay. All right, well, thank you. I know, I didn't see it on the agenda today, but if we get it on the agenda, we'll welcome you to come back and talk to us, but I don't know where we're at with it. I know we did discuss it before, but be happy to, but it's not on our agenda this evening.
That's fine. My biggest thing is just consider the principles of which we're applying this stuff. Because if there's a bigger issue, I wouldn't expect any HOA community to do this themselves, right?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next up we have presentations. First up, we have discussion of Parks and Recreation Master Plan, Site-Specific Plan. Who's got this, Derek? Or who's got this?
I'm gonna pull this up to share this on your screen. Just give me 1 second.
And then I have for you all just a presentation for reference. It was a presentation that we did previously with the steering committee in order to help us come up with this conceptual idea.
Do you want me to introduce you?
Oh, I can introduce myself.
I think Nick is out of
Alrighty.
town, right? Is he on a safari
Yeah,
this week?
Nick's
Nick's in South
in
Africa.
South Africa
so
for a missions trip.
that's who you guys most recently met at the council retreat.
Yes.
So this is Allie Bunker, who works with Nick.
Yep. I don't have a clicker, but if we could go to the next slide, I'll introduce our team. Today, as Derek announced to you all, Nick and Jen are not here, but I have with me Natalie, who is an expert in water resources, and she'll be going into some of those details here later. And again, my name is Allie Bunker, and I'm with the McAdams team. So next slide. So previously, when we last met with you all, we showed this slide to you before and kind of explained what our process is for getting to the point that we are currently. When we spoke to you at our retreat, we gave you two different conceptual plans, one for Marvin Efred and then one for the current site we are on, Village Hall. And we received some feedback from you all that basically You all would like to see an amphitheater here on the site rather than a farmer's market and pavilion that we previously suggested. So today we're going to be going through those items with you today. So next slide. Next slide. Oh, yep. Next one, please. Cool. So our conceptual plan. So this is kind of what, going back to the drawing boards, kind of figuring out what to do with this site, listening to you, listening to the community to see what you all would like for Village Hall. So some concerns with the site that we went into prior to the design. We knew that we have this brand new existing building, your lovely Village Hall. We also knew that there was a concern to have the existing trees, which you'll see on that screen with the darker shading. Those were very important to keep to the site, so we wanted to make sure to incorporate that and to design around them. As well as we had some grade challenges that, though this is conceptual, we wanted to think about those going into the future, so then you'd have a design that would really work for you all, as well as some connectivity with an existing trail. So with those key items for the design, and I'll be going into this further with some precedent imagery, and then the packet in front of you kind of helps call out some of those items with a key. So as you're following along, you can look at those. Within the site, you all wanted an amphitheater, so that was an aspect that we added for the site. A lawn area that has a multi-use purpose. So whether it's a music event, whether it's a future special event, like the other ones that you all are well known for, or whether it's having a small farmer's market within the lawn space. It's a really flexible use. And then we also have located near Newtown Road, a arbor structure. So something that's very unique to Marvin that makes you all so special and makes people feel welcome here. You have placemaking areas that, you know, people can go to and they know you for. So we thought that an arbor structure as well as this amphitheater will really kind of just bring the site together. And then located, when you see the amphitheater kind of in the upper northwest corner, behind that we have an area where we will have grass pave. So then a truck for a special event can kind of back into that area, unload whatever they need, and then move out of the space. For this site, we'd be using all existing parking that you currently have. Potentially, we could have some additional parking. One of the key elements that I didn't mention previously that Natalie will be going into in further detail, this site specifically has some stormwater problems, and we're hoping that the suggestions and the ideas that we come up with tonight can lead to future solutions for that. So the next slide, please. So those are kind of these key areas. You'll note that that also connects with the sheet that I gave you. These are areas where we think that aesthetically this not only matches the programmatic elements that you're hoping to have from this project and from this site, but then also aesthetically it matches Marvin and what makes Marvin Marvin. So we want to add to what you have rather than something completely new. We want it to mesh together. Next slide, please. Alrighty, so trailheads and signs based on community input, based on working with steering committees, based on boards that we've spoken to, we've noticed that Marvin, such a key component to this community are your trails. And that's something that we wanted to highlight with this site. You'll note on the northwestern and southern part of the site, there are trail connectors for an existing trail as well as a proposed future trail connection. We're hoping that visually these precedent images not only would work with what you currently have, but maybe could be additional aspects to add to the site. The top right corner on the screen, that style-wise matches many of the items that when we did a site visit, seeing various properties throughout the community, aesthetically is similar. Or if it's an aspect of something where you want to pop of color or kind of an art piece or something really unique to the space, something like the bottom left image. So those are just some examples of some trailheads as well as the signs for them, for those two trails that we're proposing. The next screen, please, or next slide, please. Alrighty, so for the lawn, this was kind of a big aspect of, we wanted to create a space. We know space is limited in Marvin, but we wanted to create a space for an existing site that you have where you could have special events, you could create special spaces, you could rent out this space, you can have these community engaging elements for your community members. So the lawn would be a Bermuda turf that would have a multi-use programmatic element for future events, kind of like I was talking about earlier. The largest image that says the park, if you recall from earlier, the arbor structure that I mentioned, it would be a great placemaking element to have, an area that can provide shade, can create placemaking, as well as, the park. It's a bold concept. And then next slide, please. So the amphitheater, after the retreat that we had with you all, the last time our team talked with you guys, from the feedback that we received, it seems like an amphitheater was kind of where you all were wanting to go forward with that idea. So for an amphitheater, you'd have the Great Lawn that I was just talking about, as well as a amphitheater stage structure or a band shell. So the images that you see there, the two upper images could be a structure. Those are just examples of visually what they could look like, as well as the bottom left corner image. Budget, of course, dependent. We can build seating into the lawn due to the grade, which is, as you all know, the road is higher and it kind of slopes downwards. So you could have the amphitheater facing into that, that grade and really highlight that aspect of the site. Another arbor structure idea for that bottom left corner, if you see the kind of that overhang metal wooden structure there, that could be something that instead of a full band shell, you could do instead. So again, these are just visual images of local and kind of small scale amphitheaters that you could provide within this site. And then visually with the planting, this would be similar to what we would be thinking about doing for this site. Next slide, please. All right, I will turn it over to Natalie, who will talk about green stormwater infrastructure.
Right. Hello, everyone. My name is Natalie Borges. I'm a project engineer with the Water Resources team in McAdams. This is the first time I'm ever in a town hall, so this is, kind of feels a little bit like a UN sort of setting. So the pictures that you see there are green stormwater infrastructure. We understand that you guys have some serious concerns here, specifically at the town hall. I saw the video that you all provided us. It looks like you have a decent amount of really just dirty water coming onto this site that can potentially pose a problem for this brand new building. So our team has experience with these kinds of, stormwater flooding nuisance issues. We work with the city of Charlotte within their stormwater services team. So this is not the first moat that we've seen, so to speak. Typically when you think of stormwater control measures, you might think of a pond hidden away in the back corner of a lot. What we want to see here, because we think this is a good candidate, just because of where the water's coming from, where the town hall is positioned, we think green stormwater infrastructure would look really good. And that means, bioretention cells, which is what you're seeing up there. A bioretention cell is able to provide flood control because it is a depression in the ground, and therefore it holds back, volumes of water. It also has an infiltrative media, which allows the water to kind of soak through, kind of like a sponge, and exit out in a much cleaner, just much cleaner quality than it came in. So as part of, this hydraulic study, we would like to identify the upstream issues because there is a decent amount of erosion that's coming from the other side of the road. So we'd like to be able to address that potentially before we get onto this site and really start looking at how we're going to divert the water away from the town hall. So, we are also cognizant that we want to protect the trees on the site. Green stormwater infrastructure is able to work within a smaller footprint. We can, as you saw in the previous plan that Ali was showing you, we can kind of make it modular to where we can kind of work around the trees that are existing. And we can also plant these. So these are not only able to function really well as stormwater control measure, but they're also, aesthetic, as you can see. All of these pictures are from the North Carolina, Atlanta region. Right at the bottom left corner, that's the NCSU Hunt Library. We've got some pictures from the North Carolina Arboretum in Asheville. These are really resilient structures that are present throughout the state. So if you don't mind clicking on to the next slide. We talked about, diverting the storm event away from the town hall, the opportunities for flood reduction and water infiltration. These can also provide screening from the road if that's something that you wish to see. They don't have to, of course. They're able to provide that aesthetic appeal that perhaps a dry pond or a wet pond wouldn't be able to. And these are also, if you plant pollinator plants in these bioretention cells, they can also kind of put you on the list to become certified as a wildlife habitat with the National Wildlife Federation. You add the little treehouse kind of thing for the birds and water, and you apply for that, and with the bioretention cell, you're kind of killing a few birds with that stone. So that's what I have to present for you all today. If you have any questions about more detailed information, that's what we're here for.
Can you speak to the proposals that you all submitted to the, so we have a couple of options here, and I think there's a phased approach here, preliminary drainage study for 6,500, the conceptual drawings for 7,000, and then the external items for 5,000. I think we need a little bit more detail as to what those include. I do also want to suggest a couple of changes to this, because there's a lot of analysis work done upstream in the preliminary drainage design. Honestly, we don't care what takes place upstream. There's nothing that we think we can do from a standpoint of what happens above and beyond Village Hall, because that's not our property. It's actually unincorporated Union County.
Okay.
So we're only truly focused on what comes in here as far as the volume, and then what to do with it from there. We've asked DOT to kind of configure where that drainage goes. They won't do it, and there's nothing that the properties above us are going to do. So I'm not sure how we can amend and change that, but if you can just kind of speak to this proposal itself and what those concepts actually mean.
Right, so the upstream drainage study, I understand, we don't want to do anything off the site, that makes sense. If we could kind of coordinate with NCDOT to figure out the erosion control issue, that would also help us, maintain the health of a proposed stormwater control measure here. But, when we're talking about upstream, we're also just talking about the calculation that we're going to have to, or all of the back work that it takes to figure out exactly how much flow is coming to this point, because you do have upstream drainage area that is flowing here. So we can definitely amend that scope to, remove any kind of off-site work, but we do have to include it within our calculations when it comes to designing a measure at this downstream point, if that makes sense.
Wendy, if you want
I
to speak.
think she's referring to the amount of water that is coming through the pipe, collected from the ditch on the other side of the road, where it's all coming down. So they have to calculate how many gallons of water per second come through that pipe, so that they can make the calculations as to what they have to do to contain the water once it's on our site. And then they can mitigate that from that standpoint.
So with that being said, we have, and help me out, maybe you can do, or maybe Hunter, but the property that has yet to be developed, that's on the corner of Newtown and Waxaw Marvin, that we don't know what that's going to be. So if it gets developed and there becomes parking spaces and there's a lot of runoff and stuff, does it make sense that we tap the brakes and wait to see what's going to happen there? Because if they do something there, could that?
That's not going to affect us on this side of the road, Joe. It
Okay,
goes,
that's why I asked
it's
about
on the other side of the road, it'll go
topography.
that
Okay,
way.
so all we're
Yeah.
concerned as far as properties, sort of to Christina's point, is things we can control and can't, just get a volume. So which ones are we really looking at?
Because everything
Coming from
that's
here?
flowing here is already developed. It's Providence down south.
Okay.
It's the water from DOT's roadway ditch and whatever runoff comes off of their property into that ditch. And then it's tunneled under the road and dumps on us, unfortunately. So,
And if there was upstream development, future development, they still have to adhere to stormwater codes. So they would have to detain water if it's a large enough
'cause they
development.
can't dump more on you than what you're already getting.
Yeah.
That's per our county ordinances as well, because if I remember correctly, at one of the meetings, they were talking about, Bjorn was talking about that, about their new plan for development, that's one of the things in the new plan, about how much water is being let off property onto somebody else's, so.
Okay.
And to add to that, something I forgot to mention, if we do have additional development on this site, our proposed stormwater control measure would also be able to detain and treat the water for whatever else is eventually going to be built.
So with this proposal that I'm looking at that is sideways, hence the reason that, no, you can't.
Yeah, you can.
Oh, shoot, you sure can. Oh, my God, Joe, oh, my God, Joe.
Drop the mic,
All
I'm
right,
walking out.
thank you, Joe, thank you. It really showed up.
Neat right
crooked.
there. Kudos, Joe.
Thank you, Joe. I was wrong. You were right. Okay. I'm not going to say it again. Will this, it feels very loud in here now. With this plan, will you do not just the retention ponds that are on this, the B and Ps that are on, well, this one's a longer one. The other one is the two smaller ones. Can you also factor in the riprap, like, that's coming down? Because it's so ugly.
Yeah.
And I love all this. I actually saw this earlier when we had the urban forester here, that they were talking about you can, do kind of more like the wild-ish looking stuff. And it's so pretty because this is so ugly. Can we, with this proposal, can we factor that in?
Yeah, we can. I was looking at it right before we walked in.
It's so ugly.
Yeah.
I know, okay,
And then
thank you.
just to add on to that, Kim, the idea of having both of our teams work together, we're hoping to add the concept sketch that we went through with you all. So not only would we be able to utilize that area and those spaces, but with Natalie's idea as well, then we can build both. And so, we were talking prior to the meeting that, there are additional ideas that we can do for that, like the Great Lawn, so with this new development, we will have to have a storm measure in order to accomplish that. And it seems like based on the videos that we've seen, this is already a problem that you all have, but, what's the best solution? And so
Okay.
that's, hopefully, the presentation that we gave you today will help illuminate that.
Okay, good, yeah, because I mean, I've seen it a couple of times, and I like what you guys have done, but I just want to make sure that as we are looking at what we're going to do up here, because this is where it's coming from, that we're kind of also factoring in coming down the front of the road and down, so. Okay.
So that, just so I'm clear, just adding these numbers up here, we're close to $20,000, 18.5. Obviously, I think we can work on a couple of things, but keeping in mind the cost will probably still likely remain roughly the same. We're adding these numbers together. Is that correct?
Sorry, what was that? I'm sorry.
On your proposal, we're adding those numbers together for the complete study?
Yes.
Okay.
For the 30% drainage study.
To explain what that means, because
30% means, well, obviously make sure that this thing works that we're proposing, but it means a more, less detailed set of drawings is typically how we approach this. Have you guys look at it, and then when we get to a higher level, like you want to go through with what we're proposing, then that would be a separate fee.
Okay, did y'all hear that?
How much is that fee gonna be?
We would have to go back and forth with you guys and come up with something we can all agree on.
Okay, master negotiator, got it.
Yeah.
Jill and I are right on top of that.
One question that I do have is, once we get all of whatever it is that we're doing finalized, are y'all going to assist and coordinate with the DEQ submission?
We can definitely add that onto
Okay.
our scope. Mhm.
Okay. So I guess what they need to be clear as, because I'm going to ask them tonight to appropriate $20,000 for this study moving forward. We just kind of need to be prepared for financially what we think the rest is going to be, just so they can make a sound decision as to what's to come at a later date. Do y'all have any guesstimate of what?
I would have to go back and talk to my supervisor,
Okay.
honestly.
So what she's saying is, tonight, I'm asking you for a $20,000 change order to do the stormwater study. It's not a complete study. They'll have to come back later and get additional appropriations made for additional drawings once things are decided. $18.5 is what the numbers add up to be.
I mean, if we're gonna do anything on this site, we have to have stormwater, right? Like, we've got to remediate, like, what is happening. And we've got to, even if we don't do anything on the rest of this site, we have to, like, mitigate, like, what is happening, because it is,
Yeah, 'cause we've
it's
already
disastrous.
talked about a plan to mitigate it.
Right.
And had a plan in place, so.
So we need to figure out what we actually need, because as much as I think that we have a good idea, we're not the experts, so I would much rather do that. And unfortunately, this is an issue that has been, put upon us before we, from other places that, came before
It's a
us.
problem that we
So
inherited.
we inherited it. Yes, that's the word. So, I mean,
So we're obviously going to need a motion for this then?
yeah,
Yes.
Christina wants one.
Is there any further discussion or any questions from council?
So let's go back to, because we kind of smooshed these two together, because the ladies presented them kind of simultaneously. So let's go back to the master plan, site-specific plan, and just kind of talk about that first. Do you guys have questions about it? Do you like it? Do you want to see anything different? And the only reason I'm pushing this is because if there are any tweaks to be made, then we need to send Ally on her way so that they can do that, because they want us to give the final thumbs up, thumbs down at the last February meeting so that they can start going out for Part F funding.
Okay, so my question is, and this is per the meeting that we had last week, I guess, right, that we're all in. So we had talked about, I mean, I like the overall, I mean, it's great. But one of the things we had talked about was storage at the back of the amphitheater for
Correct.
equipment and such. Has that been revised? Do you have a plan of that?
Yes, so that's within the footprint that we have there. So that would account for that additional space. We just didn't specifically draw that physical
That's fine, I was
maintenance.
just, because it's the same drawing, so I just wanted to make sure that was accounted for. and
Right,
everything.
right.
Okay.
Yes, that has been accounted for, and we would be adding that, if you recall from that presentation as well as this one, we would have that backup area. We'd have enough space for that, and then the physical structure depending on what all you would like to see for that, whether that's a shell, whether that's a structure, whether that was kind of the arbor structure that I was mentioning. Depending on that, then that would define how big we would need for that space.
So as far as, for me, overall picture and how this looks, it looks like this is something that could, you know, really be a cool addition to the property that we have. However, as smart as we sometimes think we are, after we built this lovely building, we have an issue with lighting that comes in and shines on these people here because of the way the building's positioned and the windows. Has
Right.
any thought been given to the actual amphitheater? I know it slopes that way.
Correct.
But, you know, if we consider direction of the sun, sunset, when events are gonna happen, is the light gonna be staring into the people that are performing, or is it gonna be at the people that are
Right.
trying to enjoy it? Has any thought been put into that?
Definitely, yes. So every time when we do conceptual sketches, we take in consideration wind, light, you know, various climates, various seasons. And so for this design, that was definitely a key element. Some of the site-specific elements that I mentioned was the grading that you talked about, you know, the existing trees. And so what we'd like to do is, we know there are elements to this site that are important, like those existing trees. So we're trying to remove as little of that forested edge that you have as possible. And so with that, we're trying to figure out kind of the sizing of that amphitheater. So to answer your question for those lighting, yes, we did take that into consideration for time of events as well as what events those would be. So the idea would be, you're not having a concert and, you know, everyone's looking into the sun.
Right.
Was
You know what? I get no respect.
You
for
put me
it.
on the
I
spot.
can't vote, but I can ask good questions.
Yeah.
No, I've been to those places. It's like,
Right.
wow. And I look at that when I'm purchasing a house. I want to know which way the sun's setting and how it's going to affect what my backyard's going to be like. But this was something that I thought, okay, because of the slope is really kind of pushing us in this direction. And that big open space, if we're having an event in the open day,
Right.
sun is right above it, and we're trying to get as much sunlight straight up. Yeah,
Definitely.
so,
Definitely. And I mean, that's an additional aspect that we can look into if this idea moves forward, of the landscape, right? So you have these great majestic trees out here, right? Obviously, you're not going to want to buy, you know, these huge trees to install. So over time, there is growth, but that's another thing that we can add with the design idea of sunlight with shading, with events, of planting vegetation, or in order to help with screening, rather than, you know, a physical structure, or maybe that is an element that is something that you would rather prefer.
And given this size, I'm assuming you guys know better than me, but how many would this hold if we did something like this?
Oh, that's a great question.
Second.
Second great question.
People just pointing that out, and just, you know. No, the reason I ask is because do we have the parking
Right.
facility for it? Or are we going to expect people to bike or walk to an event
Right.
and
Yeah.
have a picnic or while a concert's going
Definitely.
on?
I mean, that is definitely a concern to the site when we were creating the concept. Parking is limited, and due to the physical property constraints, we can add some parking, but for, you know, in a large event, you know, we've all been to the big Marvin Efred big events where parking can be limited. So that is a concern. There are trails that we're hoping to connect to the site. But for that specific number of people within the lawn space, I don't have that off the top of my head.
And in fairness, my fear comes where you have a nice event, people want to come because Jamie picked a great band that's going to be playing.
Right.
People are going to come, and guess what? They're going to park in that neighborhood over there and walk. And that concerns me, because anytime you have an event, you're going to have that potential.
Right.
Jamie, do you have something?
I was going to say, I do have a question, but you also have an opportunity here with churches and stuff. That's a good way to make money for them.
Oh, yeah.
So, that- I mean,
Like a little
and
parking?
that's an easy walk.
Yeah.
Right down the thing, and, maybe we allot for, some kind of walkway, maybe we have to put in, but that walkway comes into the back here.
Well, I mean, it's coming, like with the loop.
No, I know, but I'm just saying,
Yeah.
that's a great opportunity for them. We don't know what's gonna happen out there, but if you're having an event here.
And that was a question, that was a concern that Parks Rec and Greenway had this morning. They were like, well, there's not gonna be enough parking, like you're gonna have all,
There'll be plenty of parking.
that
I
is,
think we discussed this, though,
that-
and we thought that the additional parking was going to come from the Heritage District as
that's
it's developed.
exactly what I told them today.
Have you ever been to the Stumptown Park in downtown Matthews?
I don't get out much.
This reminds me of that, in
Okay.
that the stage is right there next to the road, and the open area, the grass is right next to the road. But when there's a concert, I mean, you're talking about like big bands that, been on the radio and TV. You're walking a mile plus to get to those festivals, to those concerts, those events. I mean, because that whole area is shut down. You're parking at the local churches, retirement homes, elementary
Yeah,
schools
I
and
get that. I
stuff, so
I
it's
can see how the
similar.
neighbors could potentially, or maybe we just have you put a no parking
Well, yeah.
during event and,
Yeah, no
find
event
your other
parking.
way to get there type thing,
Yeah.
so. Okay.
We got trails that go up to Weddington Methodist behind Banks. So,
That'll keep them out of the neighborhood, right?
Yes.
When you see this and you see this open area, do you see that there's much grade, are we gonna have to grade a lot?
So, so that was one of the concerns that we had for the site, and that was why we oriented the site the way we did, with the amphitheater kind of, with the structure being kind of low and the road being up higher. If you note on the northwest and eastern side of the site, we put 2 walls in there just to be extra cautious, extra conservative. Obviously we want to create a site that is accessible to all, and grading dependent, obviously this is just conceptual.
Right.
But we kind of put in our minds of here are 2 walls to help with that grading. So then we're keeping that in mind for the entire site.
Grading, I do think that done correctly with the grading, because you're gonna need to do grading, done
Definitely.
correctly could be really,
Definitely.
nice, because
The,
it banks
definitely.
down into the amphitheater.
One of the ideas that I showed with kind of the arbor structure, and then if you saw kind of those, it kind of almost looked like white beams, if you will, kind of cutting into the landscape. It would depend on what you all would like, but I know previous comments were made of, we'd like to have a multi-purpose turf area where we can use that for whatever, not just an amphitheater. So depending on moving forward with this conceptual idea, you could basically grade into the earth kind of those seating areas. So whether it's that graded into the seating area with a, say like a concrete seat wall, if you will, so someone can sit on it, or if it's, everyone else brings their lawn chair or sits on a blanket kind of thing. So that's another element for this site, where maybe closer to the stage that's there, and maybe further back, so then you can have different programmatic elements for that space that you can use.
At
Yes.
the risk of asking a third question that may not go over as well, but it has affected us. We, at one point, put a little parking area in a neighborhood, and then that became an area where kids would do their drinking or drugs and stuff like that. Are we looking from a council standpoint of closing this off in the evenings, where they can't come in here and park, and this would be closed off, or is that what the council's considered? Because I can see this an area where it's the kids' new favorite nighttime place to come, and
I mean, our parking lot could be that right now.
We could
It
have some
could.
low lighting and some cameras down there for security, and law enforcement can handle it from there. I mean,
Yeah.
if there's people on the property that are trespassing, then they're trespassing.
well, that's what I'm asking is, if we're not having an event there, like at Efer Park, we close it at 7 o'clock,
How are you
there's a
gonna close
gate.
this off?
That's what I'm asking. I mean, you can't, but you can just say park is closed for in the evenings, or are we going to encourage people to walk in the evenings in that area? I don't know. These are questions
This
that,
is, our trail connector from Village Hall goes through this
I mean, if
facility,
somebody's
so,
out for a
yeah.
walk, they're out for a walk. But I mean, I don't think there's, I hear what your concern is. I just don't know that there's anything that we can do about it. It's the same as the property is right now. Like, somebody could roll up and hang out in the parking lot.
well, they can only go so far. They can park here.
So I do have a question on the
Those
trail,
kids.
though. This northwestern connector is not on our property.
Gotcha. Okay.
The northwestern connector is not on our property. That's on our neighbor's property.
Okay. Thank you for the clarification.
Yeah, I mean, we do have a connector that goes back there, and we have an easement to get back there, but this is not in our easement or on our property. The top one, that's Robbie's property, next door. The dotted line is our property line. The heavy line is our property.
The current trail goes straight off the end of the parking lot. So I think we just shift that over.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, we can definitely
Yeah,
adjust that,
conceptually.
yeah.
That's like, this is the concept, so.
Right, right. Again, it's conceptual and it's not yet to construction drawings. But, we hear your concerns because, safety is always a forefront for us. My team and I, we have a lot of experience with various parks. We have a new park built, Pearl Street Park, if you've been to it in Charlotte, and a bunch throughout the area and throughout the state. So security is always the forefront for us for concerns, but that's definitely something we can talk with the team and figure out different security measures to help with law enforcement and whatnot.
Ed, correct me if I'm wrong, but the more people we can get out using it, wouldn't that be that's a deterrent in itself, right? Like safety in numbers, Ed? See Ed back there?
He can't hear you.
Oh, I was just saying, I was just talking about, the more people that we can, if we did open it at night, there's the safety in numbers sort of thing, right? Like the trails out here, if we have a heritage district and people are moving about.
But just to add to that, Derek, we have a Greenway team as part of our company, and I know that's something that it's a common misconception with greenways, with a lot of crime occurring within those spaces. So we can talk to them too and receive advice from them.
Okay. Any other questions about the stormwater or the park? Bob?
Let's start with the park. Let's start with the conceptual plan.
No, I'm fine.
So we'll start with the park. Is there anything we want actionable from a standpoint? Do you need anything from council on the motion?
Here's my ask for you, Ally. If we can really figure out where the actual trail is,
Okay.
instead of up and over, like, let's figure out, like, kind of how it can, because it may come, like, right in between the amphitheater and work its way, like, back out. But if we could do that and then bring that back kind of like as our final for our February meeting. And
Okay,
then,
sounds good.
because that's when wanted to make sure that we had our.
Just a food for thought, without a technical survey, based on the information that we received, we don't have that
We
exact
should have a survey.
location.
We just had it surveyed. Can we get Ally the survey?
For this one?
Yeah. Like for this one. Like where it actually, that's what you
Okay,
want, right? You want an actual survey of where the trail goes.
Right, where the trail hits the property
We
line.
have to have that. The trail builder has it, right?
I can touch base with Derek and double check on that.
We should have it.
Sounds good.
Because we had to get the easements from
Perfect.
And-
We'll
Yeah.
circle the wagons and
So if we
check
can
that.
do that and then
Yes.
bring that back for the meeting at the end of the month.
Okay.
And then we should, I mean, I don't think anybody has any issues, especially if we are splitting the two BMPs in the front and keeping them away from the trees. I think that looks a lot more attractive.
I like the
Okay.
idea of your concept rather than a body of water.
Yeah.
I like it much more. And we had a similar concept in mind
Yeah.
before we did this, but we wanted your professional opinion on the amount of water and what it would take to control that amount of water. Because we didn't have that expertise, but we did have an idea, concept that we were doing to try to mitigate that water, so.
Okay.
I have one question. The building, our building, where we're sitting here physically, 7.5 years from now, when we add another section on, which way will it go?
So we told Nick that is a possibility, that we built the building to expand on each end, and he drew this to accommodate for both sides.
Okay.
Spending more money.
7.5
7 years. 7.5 years. Okay, so, all right, so Ally, you're good with this?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, all right, so let's move on to the hydraulic study. Sorry, Joe.
That's all right, go ahead.
Sorry. I've been in a lot of meetings today.
That's okay.
Okay, so do you guys have questions about this hydraulic study? I mean, I think it needs to be done. I don't think we have much of a choice. Christina, do you want us to do a not to exceed, and you can go back and chat with them about the scope of some of the stuff that you had some questions about?
I do, and I've actually
Okay.
prepared the motion already that reflects that in your
Okay. Perfect, okay.
your e-scribe.
All right, are we ready for a motion, or we still have questions
I-
from council?
Do not have any additional questions.
No more questions, Bob?
Nope, I'm fine, thank you.
Thank you. All right, so
He is the
you said
giant.
we have a motion?
Yeah. All right, I'll make a motion to approve the change order with McAdams at a rate to be negotiated by the manager, but not to exceed $20,000 to conduct a preliminary drainage study and a 30% concept drawings and direct staff to prepare a budget amendment as needed.
Further discussion? All's in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Motion passes unanimously. All right,
Thanks, ladies.
thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hey, Ally, real quick, will we have another stab at all those documents? Or, yeah, will that be at the end, at the meeting at the end of the month? Perfect, okay, perfect. Okay, but no, that's good. And then, so you want our approval on that at the end of the month too? Okay. Okay, cool, thank you. Sorry, thanks.
All right, moving on, reports and updates. First up, manager's report.
I just have one quick thing. As you all are aware, I've requested a meeting with the county. Checked back with them this morning. We have not heard anything back. So I don't know if y'all have any contacts over there. You want to reach out to anyone directly and just kind of take a stab and see if y'all can get any lead.
So to add to that, I just actually read my email today. For those of you, for the record, I was reading emails. And Jeff from WUMA has an invite out to all county commissioners to bring them in to our next meeting, whether they respond to that or not, or how many. But he clearly said this is like a big topic we are all talking about right now. We'd like to have you guys to come in. So we may have that opportunity, and if that happens, we may need to, and you guys wanted to attend that as council members.
I need to go.
Yeah, then I would say that we could just call, let's say the potential quorum would be there.
What's the date?
When is that meeting?
Give me a second and see if is it the 4th? Here, hold on. It's in Weddington, and it is on 23rd of February,
It's the same day as our.
4 PM. So
You'll keep us posted.
there's
Will they tell you if they, who
well,
accepts?
I'll see it. If they do, it'll be interesting. He just sent this yesterday, so. So if, I'd still try from a, do we
from
still want to
village,
talk to him?
yeah.
Because I think we have more pressing issues than any of these other towns have, quite frankly. I mean, they have their, I mean, we're looking at something that is going to be a domino effect if they, on February 20th, don't pass, and my last conversation with them wasn't all
You would still try what?
to see if they could, any of them,
Have to
invite
meet,
any
yeah,
of them to
yeah.
come in and meet with us.
So just so anyone at home is listening and they are confused as to what we're meeting about, it's the water and sewer infrastructure issues that Union County's facing and trying to expand those treatment plan opportunities. That's what we're discussing. When is that WIMA meeting?
23rd at 4 PM. It's our next,
February 23rd?
yes.
Okay.
And it's, yeah. We're usually done by then.
And that's all I have. So, I encourage you all to reach out to any commissioners if y'all have personal contacts in case I don't get anywhere with it, but I will continue. Would prefer you guys do it than us getting individual staff members involved. But
I'll sit there next to you when you make the call. I'm here with the
That-
mayor.
and that's all I have.
Work that angle, so. Yeah, it's really the three new, well, the two new ones that, you know, because the other, we have, I think, two fairly much in our camp. The other ones are going a different direction, so, and they're following the lead is what I'm seeing, so. Well, we'll see. That's all? Thank you. Planners report.
All right, I got just 3 items to update you guys on. First one being the Bonds Grove and Waxhaw Marvin roundabout project. It is scheduled to be approved and on DOT's State Transportation Improvement Plan, the STIP. The question, and kind of want to just get a little guidance, and we can maybe put this on the work session agenda, is that now the conversations are being had between us and the county and with DOT to have the project accelerated. If you guys recall, the project was originally, when we applied for the funding, I think slated for 2025, 2020, or basically construction to start in 2028, 2029. Now we have a chance to start the preliminary engineering this fall. And then the construction would still be 2027, 2028. But basically would need your guys' approval to request for this project to be accelerated. Like I said, staff's already had those conversations with DOT and the county. Basically what we would do is that the county is the primary applicant for the project. They would do everything with DOT. We would do an interlocal with the county for our funding portion. And it was basically, the total project was, the 20% local match for the project was 1.98 million. And the county was giving 500,000, and then we would have the 592,000 for the cost share. So just wanted to kind of give you guys an update. If you guys want to ask questions, be happy to answer them, but go ahead.
How much money do they want and when do they want it?
Basically, like we committed the funds back a few months ago whenever we approved for the application. But the funds would be, the first phase is estimated at 88,000, and it would be roughly like 40 to 50,000 on our end. And those funds would be due probably in October for us to start. I have had conversation. I mean, we were looking at budget, looking at PAL bill, like I said, the funds are there with the construction being pushed out anyway, so 2028, that's going to be the large chunk of change. But this is what was, I guess, like I said, discussed from a staff level to have it accelerated, because the goal is to have that project done before the widening of Providence.
So remind me, we committed to 592,000 total, or that's the 20% of the
That would be that is our portion of the match for the project.
total?
Yes.
Until we hit overruns?
Correct.
And then we're on the hook for 50% of the overruns?
That one I'm not 100% sure on, because with it being the county involved, I'm not sure if us and the county, like if it's 50%
Total,
with the
so it'd
county.
be
or-
25, 25,
Yes,
or,
I can ask
Yeah,
about
let's-
that, but, and
Yeah.
some of that will also be probably outlined in the interlocal between us and the county.
okay.
Uh,
Well, I
but-
want to know what DOT's requiring.
Okay.
And then obviously the county, like, we can figure that out, but, so they're going to ask for about 40-ish in October. and-
40, 50.
Okay, and then to have it finished by 27? Is that what you said?
From my email with DOT, he would be saying that we could probably get construction by the spring of 2027 and would have it completed by, end of summer, early fall of 2027.
Because they're going to want to start on Providence the next year.
And
they want-
it's same with any roundabout with road closures, especially with that location close to the school.
Yeah,
The goal would be to do it
okay.
when school's out.
I mean, I'm fine moving it up. It's going to have to be done. We're going to have to find the money for it.
But, yeah, but if you, I mean, it's not in our
Yes
control.
and no.
But if you, the further it pushes out, the price of it goes up. So, I mean, that's great. This has worked in our favor.
Yeah, and this, like I said, when we get to that point, if with the overruns and actual cost, there are funding opportunities through CRTPO for their discretionary funding for shortfalls and so on. But the goal is to basically have that preliminary engineering and right-of-way done in the next year and a half, 2 years. Construction probably won't move up from the spring of 2027, but, for us to go ahead and get, 30 to 50% of the project in theory kind of done sooner is definitely, that helps it, because then that helps it on DOT's construction schedule and everything.
Hunter, when did you find this out? When was this presented to you that this was being moved up?
The accelerated conversations started back in probably maybe late December, early January, basically when it was presented to CRTPO in November, and they gave their recommendations to DOT on prioritization. We weren't expecting, I mean, it was a very competitive process. We weren't expecting to probably be the #1 project, but that's kind of, it came out to be us being top 3. So when that was the outcome, we kind of knew it was going to be funded. Then we started having discussion with DOT of what are the odds of getting it moved up. Bjorn was kind of taking a lot of that process. Bjorn asked me, he was like, would council, have any issues with potentially moving it up? I said that I can discuss it with them, but to my knowledge, we've committed these funds. It really does. The only thing that concerned me from a staff level was the breakdown. I didn't want to have somehow the construction cost of that line up with the construction cost of the Marvin Loop Trail, because then it would have been a big hefty check coming out at one time. But basically, it's kind of offset where we would have a payment kind of come out every 2 years for this one, and the final one being that construction. So the majority of this conversation happened last week, and once DOT said, hey, we can move it up, Bjorn reached out to me, and I didn't want to amend the agenda tonight, because Bjorn just said we have time. I just wanted to kind of brief you guys, and then if we want to take action on basically committing or approve, how would I say this? You guys are okay with the to move it up and have it accelerated, then we'll probably do a resolution for that at the work session.
Let's put that on the work session only because, we're gonna have this one being completed, we're on the hook for 50%, overruns, and having all this coming in together at the same time with what we're doing, so we'll have a more in-depth discussion.
Well, and that's what I was getting ready to ask Jill and Christina is, can we find the funds for that? Because I'm pretty sure we were close to being,
Tapped out.
well, the budget was,
So the 3 of us are going to meet next week and really crunch those numbers
Okay.
before we do that answer.
okay.
We'll
So
add that
so we
to
can,
the-
let's put that on the work session.
That's fine, and that's like I said, we crunched the numbers originally, and it was like, hey, it's there, obviously we'll have to find some for that construction. Now that construction is just being moved up kind of 1 year, but it's still those conversations of making sure we have the funding in place, especially for that large chunk of change, will need to be needed one way or another. And it's either if we, start saving now / looking at the vehicle tax, whatever it is, all that kind of goes into play. So we'll meet next week, and that can definitely be on the work session. And once again, if everything's still okay, we can tell the county, tell DOT we're good with accelerating and move forward.
Anything else?
Marvin Loop update. Just want to continue giving you guys this. About the same as last time. Not really sure. I've reached out to our representative with DOT at the state and at the local level. The local level then said, hey, forwarded this email to her name's Madeline with the NCDOT in Raleigh. Still haven't heard back from her. Not really sure what the issue is there, but we should have had funding authorization by now from what I was originally conveyed. And I will try to get an answer by the end of this week on one, why we have not received that, and two, like, when is the actual estimated, because once again, we got to have that before we move forward on anything else. And same thing, I sent the draft RFQ to them. He forwarded it to her to make sure that it was all good. Still haven't heard back from Madeline on any changes, recommended changes, comments, or any of that. So hopefully we'll have that there, but as we kind of mentioned, it went to the feds for funding authorization approval, and I'm just not sure what's going on there. But we'll keep on trucking along on that.
Okay.
Final thing is, and we kind of did briefly discuss this, but with the Heritage subdivision update, it is, from my understanding, on the commissioner's agenda for their February 20th meeting. Does that sound right? Whatever the one is in 2 weeks. And that will be voted on, from my understanding, at that meeting. I have had conversations with Jones Homes. They've already gotten their construction documents for the next step in our process. They haven't submitted them to me yet, but basically, if they get that approval, they will be submitting that and moving forward. So you guys will probably see their preliminary plat and construction documents approval, sometime midsummer, early fall, if everything goes accordingly with the county, depending on their vote. Other than that, that's all I got, unless there's any specific questions on anything.
Okay, thank you. Next up, we got roads reports.
Couple of things. The all-inclusive contract that we've been mentioning, like I said, the last meeting will be ready in April, so y'all will see that back in a couple of months. We will have a discussion about the GO bonds with the interactive map at the work session, so just be prepared to have a good conversation about that. And then last, the Yellow Jasmine update. Still working with DOT to try to get some action on that. Don't have any direction as of yet, but we did speak yesterday in terms of them still working on a couple more things and to see if they can do anything. So I'll update you as soon as I have an update on that. That's all I have.
Hold on, is Yellow Jasmine the school bus?
School bus.
So what are we waiting on DOT for?
Y'all had requested the no parking, no stop ordinance on.
Oh, Marvin School?
Yeah.
So we're going to see if we can do that? Do you think DOT will go for that? Oh, I love it. Great. Then that means we're going to force them into the neighborhood.
They initially said no, and so I said, well, will you allow us to enter an encroachment agreement with you all to put up a sign for the no stop? So we'll see.
Cool.
We'll see what they say. They said they've never been asked that question before, so.
Making friends all the time.
Because what school bus is going to stop on a main road instead of turning into a neighborhood?
Creative. Next up, deputies report.
Sorry. Last time I spoke, I told you I was going to add some stuff to this report, and I've added frauds back on here, larcenies, suspicious persons, suspicious circumstances, and suspicious vehicles. And the reason why I did that is a lot of these are called in by people in the community, so that means our word is getting out that you need to, if you're out walking your dog, if you're out driving around your cars and stuff, or walking in your neighborhood jogging, you see something, report it. So those have been up. The other thing I want to discuss is the burglaries we've been having in the area. We had one in Innisbrook. And what they did is they came in, kicked the door, went directly to the master bedroom, pulled a pillowcase, emptied jewelry in it, and took off. They did have an alarm, but last week, when I was working before I was out sick, we had one in Weddington, and I responded from Publix, and the Weddington officer responded from Weddington. We made it there in about 7 or 8 minutes. The neighbor called it, went over there and said there's a big hole in the glass, and I hear people upstairs. We got there within 7 or 8 minutes, and they were in and out. Now, we tracked them with the dog. We went through the woods, and we did this whole roundabout thing, but they walked through the woods in neighboring neighborhood, and they got picked up in a car. So as much as I preached about alarms and using your alarms, which we still want you to do, they've kind of outsmarted us on that one because they know our response times are going to be anywhere from 8-10 minutes to 15 minutes. So if they get in and out, they can do it.
What similarities do they have? Just real quick.
It's the same. Well, in
In the homes and where they're located.
Innisbrook had a trail. The one in Highgate had, huh?
We don't have a trail. We have zero connectivity anywhere.
There's no trail back there? That's what she said. That's what she told
It's
me.
on the preserve side, and there's a
Okay,
creek that runs
that's
through
where they
it.
think they came
There's
from.
no
That's the
trail.
homeowner that said that.
No.
So they
there's no
kicked in
trail.
her back door. The only thing I could tell you about the one in Highgate is they went through the backwoods to get there, jumped the fence, threw something through the back glass window, stepped through, and then went up to the master bedroom. And they're in and out. They made it into the building and back out through the backyard in 7 or 8 minutes. So they've learned that if you have an alarm, they need to get in and get out quick. The only thing I could say about the Highgate situation is his family was out of town, he was the only one there, and whoever broke into the house knew that he had left the house. So either somebody was sitting up on the house and watching it until he left, or they were sitting in the backyard watching, waiting for him to
So
leave.
neither house had someone there.
No,
Or they knew that people were out of town,
correct.
and somebody told them.
There is a video, and they appear to be teenagers. We'd like to catch them because they're going to break into the wrong house. And then we're going to have parents all up in arms because their kids are dead. But,
It sounds like they have planned for this. They know
So-
what they're doing.
right. So we also, our frauds are up in the area. I'm going to, on Friday when I come in, I'm going to send an email out to my HOA partners and let them know that we had one the other day where they tried to get $2,000 out of somebody because their grandson was in jail somewhere down south or where he went to college. And that's an old scam, so, but they're back out there. I took a report today where somebody got $80,000 taken out of their business accounts. So, and that was over in Chimneys. There's nobody available, so I took the
And
call.
we're still having people, because I just saw next door, I don't know if it's in Marvin, but there are people still kind of going through the neighborhoods and checking car doors to see if they're locked. Because someone just said yesterday that they went in and took everything out of their car. 'Cause the car
Yeah,
door was unlocked.
if they go through the cars, if they don't call us, it's an unreported crime, because I didn't see any in our long reports that I went through tonight.
Might
before
not
I
have
came
been
in.
marked, but someone next door said, lock your
Yeah,
car doors at night because my car just got.
Yeah, my big thing with people is when I talk to them, when I'm out in the neighborhoods and stuff, I talk to people, I tell them, don't leave anything in your car, because if you leave something in your car and you lock your doors, they're just gonna break the window. They don't care.
So Ed, when you say that you sent something out to your HOA partners,
Yeah, I have the list of all the HOA emails, and what I do is I send out emails to them, letting them know what kind of crimes are going on and what people need to do.
And so you would expect them to then forward that on to their residents?
Yeah, they said they would. I mean, that's what I'm hoping they do.
You sent it on Friday, it's Tuesday, I haven't gotten one for mine, so.
You have not?
No, I have not.
All right, I'll send one out.
Sorry.
Well, I'm gonna send one, I didn't send one out on Tuesday, I'm gonna send one out on Friday. Have you got anything?
No, I'm saying today's Tuesday, I haven't gotten it. If you sent it Friday, it's now Tuesday.
No, I didn't send anything out on Friday, I'm gonna send it out this Friday.
Oh, I thought you said you
when I
sent
come
it
on to
out
work.
this Friday.
Have you gotten any in the past? Because I've sent out a couple.
I've only gotten one, and it was like before the holidays. I've only gotten one, though.
All right, I'll add that to the email, make sure they're getting this stuff out there.
Okay.
But,
I thought you said you sent it out last Friday.
no, I'm gonna do it this Friday, because we got I just found out about the fraud thing today, and, basically, I tell people if a bank calls you on the phone and says that there's compromising things in your account, hang up on them and call your bank. So I'll put some information out there about checking your statements, because this guy had business accounts, and apparently they went into his account, made a wire transfer, and then the next day they transferred it back to see if he was watching his accounts. And he wasn't, because he had sold his businesses. So he never found out that they were emptying his accounts until Bank of America said, your overdraw, we just sent $15,000 to Wells Fargo. And he goes, wait a minute, I haven't touched those accounts in months. So, yeah, that's how he found out that his accounts were drained. So right now, he's going back and forth with Wells Fargo, but that's another story.
In my subdivision, there are not that many houses. But what I've told the people is, when I was president of it, is that if anybody stops a car and they're not going into somebody's house that they know, then I ask them to take the license plate, take a picture of it. We do not allow any solicitation. I had to run 2 out last week.
I always tell them that Marvin has an ordinance, you have to move along, but,
I tell them, I said, you have a choice. You can leave now, or I'll call the sheriff.
yeah, whenever I do my preventive patrols and I see a car that looks out of place in the neighborhoods, I run the tag, because then that tag is put into our CAD system under that patrol. So if something does pop up, I've got a license plate number to go by.
Last time I did that, he was parked in my neighborhood one day, and he left before Tommy got there. The next day, he was over in Tullamore, and Tommy got there in time, and it was just somebody wanting to serve some papers on him.
I used to work in civil, I know how people like to avoid those. But is there anything on the report that anybody has any questions about, or the traffic sign, believe it or not, both of them, the high speed was 89 on both signs, so,
Going down,
yeah, so.
not in the hundreds.
I think a lot of it has to do with, it was really rainy last month, and I've stopped a lot of cars, so maybe the word's getting out, not the speed.
Just going the other direction, that's also the sign not picking them up. They're still driving like crazy out there.
You know, we're not going to prevent every crime, but what we can do is try to reduce it. That's the goal. What's that? No.
All right. Well, thank you, Ed. Appreciate it. Appreciate your service. Thank you. Next up, Planning Board report. Is that you, Bob?
We can't hear you. We can't hear you.
I'm fine, thank you.
Okay.
Nothing to report?
Nope, you just said no.
Okay. Next up, PR&G report, board report. Kim?
That's me, sorry.
Good time to take
I
it.
know. Bob usually talks longer, I thought he was gonna talk. So we just had our meeting, actually this morning, and we had a very, informative meeting with, Keith, our urban forester, I guess that's what he is, our urban forester. He was very, did a great presentation and talked about, the importance of trees and ground cover and vegetation. But he also gave us gave us some pictures of the stormwater that kind of, they also presented today, which I thought was very coincidental. So the urban forester also highly recommends doing, you know, some of the greener stormwater instead of the riprap and the mowing everything. So that was very informative. We went over the site-specific plan. They were kind of mixed on their reviews, in that they would like to see a walking park, which I'm sure that we can factor in some more physical, like, no, not a walking park, I'm sorry, a walking garden. We can factor that in there. And they're doing Arbor Day, and that's about it. At the schools, they're doing Arbor Day. Marcia's going to present.
Okay.
What's up?
Any questions? Thank you. Next up, we have consent agenda. I need a motion to approve a consent agenda as amended.
So moved.
Further discussion? All's in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Next up, public hearing. Let's see, open a public hearing. First one, open the public hearing to consider adoption of ordinance extending the corporate limits of the Village of Marvin.
So moved.
Or as presented, so we're just doing a so moved on that?
Well, we're opening the public hearing.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Right. So do we, I know we go through this all the time, just open it up to anyone here to speak, I don't think.
Well, we're
Want to start, Hunter?
Usually let staff make a brief presentation with this. It's an annexation, so I don't think it'll be too detailed, but it also gives the public the opportunity to speak before we close it.
Both staff.
Yeah, just so we did receive an annexation petition for a parcel there located on Newtown Road. It's at the corner of Newtown and War Emblem. It's an undeveloped parcel. It's, what was it, 1.11 acres? But basically, yes, as part of the annexation process, the petition has been submitted. Austin's done his part. The next step is to hold this public hearing for you guys to consider the annexation petition. If so, you know, then it'll be annexed and we can move on to the zoning portion of it. But are there any questions on it specifically?
Wayne has a question.
I think he spoke with me. There was a typo in the deed, but that's not. Yeah, it's not material for this because we have notified the public with the proper address and it's on the agenda.
Okay.
So I believe we're covered with that.
Well, because I mean, it's the wrong street and there's no number.
It's a
Okay.
legal description and we cross-referenced it with, we have a text parcel number.
Okay.
And those things just happen with the deed.
Okay.
Body work by an attorney?
Whoa, 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 whoa.
No comment.
We're fighting words.
How big is the parcel?
Let me pull up my stuff because I know I've got it.
I believe it's, yeah, I think it's just over an acre.
Yeah, I think it's 1.11. Wow, I thought I had-
4.35 acres, I think.
It's 1.33 acres.
At one point.
Just for giggles, because it was a voluntary annexation, and in particular, are trying to figure out how to get those donut holes into Marvin. What's the draw?
So this petition was submitted, I'm not familiar with the applicant, but Will Owens, who's on our planning board, knows this person and encouraged them to do it. So he was our advocate here for this annexation. Yep. He was our advocate for this annexation.
Okay.
It's a valid question.
So we want to have garbage, we want to be annexed.
No, do we want to open it up to the public? Yes. Is there any public that would like to speak?
No one has signed up to speak.
Nobody signed up? All right, so I'm going to make a motion to close the public hearing.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
All right, does anybody have any further discussion on this? Okay. Chaplain sees no issues with it. Okay. All right, so I'm going to make a motion to adopt the ordinance to extend the corporate limits of the Village of Marvin, North Carolina as presented.
Further discussion?
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion passes unanimously.
Kudos to Will.
Yeah, good on you, buddy.
Thank you, Will.
Thank you, Will.
Next up, we have opened the public hearing to consider ordinance to rezone annex petition property located on Newtown Road to Marvin Road residential parcel number 062040014A.
So moved.
Further discussion? All's in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Hearing is open.
Okay, so now that this property has, been accepted, or the annexation petition has been approved and accepted by the village, we now need to rezone or designate a zoning district to R, compliant to Rs. Basically, we have two residential districts, Marvin R, Marvin RUC. The property does have existing setbacks and stuff on the plat. However, the RUC is more set up for the existing developments. With this being an undeveloped parcel, it was staff's recommendation to zone it to Marvin R, which basically the only change from what was platted to that is the side setbacks go up to 20 feet and the minimum lot width is 130. It all complies with that. Once again, since it's undeveloped, and their structures are there, so it's not going to create any type of nonconformity or so on. Planning board also discussed this and reviewed this at their January 17th meeting, and they recommended to council to have it rezoned to the Marvin R residential district. Other than that, is there any questions?
No.
How many potential, if it's just R, how many potential homes can be?
Yeah, with it being 1.33 acres, there's no way for it to comply with for an additional lot, as well as, like I said, even if it was RUC, it would be the same because it is platted for those setbacks. And so to basically get it more conforming and not have to deal with the RUC and looking at the plat, now this creates that standard of what the Marvin R district is for.
So any questions from the council?
No. Do we want to open it up to the public? Is there any public?
The only one I can think of is the gentleman sitting in the audience there. I think his home is catty corner, if I'm not mistaken. Right, sir? Is your home catty corner to that? You mind coming up and just introduce yourself real quick and so we know who we're talking for the record?
My name is Rick Denton. I have my own company. I'm also a volunteer firefighter with Wesley Chapel for 20 years. So I've got, and I live in Walden Pond, okay? And I was one of the guys that went door to door to get people from climbing on board with you. I'll go ahead and tell you. And that was 20 years ago.
You mean becoming part of our?
Yeah, when you were trying to get more people to become part of Marvin, we actually had other people going out saying, no, you don't want to do this. Okay, it was just another, and so I was happy because I was in Walden Pond, and we've been very happy living there for 22 years now. And I got this in the mail stating that you were trying to expand your activities through other parts of that part of Weddington or that part of Marvin. I don't know.
No, unincorporated Union
Is it-
County.
I couldn't really understand exactly what the point was. I had some neighbors come to my door and ask me, and I said, well, I don't know, I'll go to this meeting to find out exactly what they plan on doing. I personally, for the last 20 years, thought that you would have some sort of a restaurant and a bar set up down there, okay? And you could have it all set up for the kids during the day, and at night you could have some other event going on for that same location. But that never, I don't know why, but it just never happened. They talked about it, but it just never happened. And then my neighbor came in and said, well, they're trying to push their activities further into Walden Pond. And I said, what? And that's why I'm here. So I'm trying to.
But we could use your support if we ever want to close the donut holes.
Well, we can put out fires faster. I said we can put out fires faster because I've been a volunteer fireman with Wesley Chapel for 20 years.
Thank you very much for that. I would definitely let your neighbors know that this is not something that Marvin has gone out and done, that they came to us on a voluntary basis and asked if they could come into Marvin from unincorporated Union County.
Oh, really?
That's probably the easiest way to explain it.
This wasn't inside Walden Pond per se.
No, this is,
That was.
nope, this is
down
across the street.
Down the road?
Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
I'm fine with that.
Yep.
That's no problem.
Well,
That's
just
no
right
issue.
across the street from you guys and,
What you told me when you go into Walden Pond in your first house,
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
Empty lot.
yep,
But Rick, as we talked about, we're glad to have you.
yep, come on into Marvin. We'd love to have you.
And it is a voluntary program. As long as it touches Marvin, any of Walden Pond would touch.
Marvin, oh, sorry. Any of it would touch Marvin. You would be, I mean, there's a lot of benefits we're trying to figure out a way. It's hard to get people to volunteer to pay a tax. The tax is not that much. I mean, we could go through but I will say that, you know, a lot of residents that are in your situation get the representation without being taxed, whether it's the officers on the corner so you can get home in time. We're doing streets now. We now have, you know, regular waste hauling coming in rather than you may have 2 or 3 trucks going in there because not everyone decides on the same company. So we're trying to standardize that. And if you had a gate there, that would be grandfathered in. If you don't, we would eventually take over your road. We're doing the maintenance, whether you waiting for your own neighborhood or the state to do it. So if we have an advocate in you, definitely want to get your contact information and be able to at least touch base with, because there is going to be an appeal at some point of us reaching out to the HOA presidents, starting there, getting conversations going, and there's right next door is a big 300 homes right here.
Well, my house is a 2-acre lot, you know, right at the entrance.
Yep.
So,
Yeah.
So.
I assume you know a lot of people in there, right? It's not that many homes in there.
Well, I basically have a lot of, most of my friends are the birds that come and eat out of my,
Yeah.
I have food for all the birds.
Okay,
that
good deal.
Come in every morning. So that's my idea of helping the humanity.
Yeah.
So anyway, I just wanted to stop by and say hello. Thank you for everything you've done. You've done a wonderful job here.
Thank you.
And you know, in terms of the park, I think there's other things you could probably do to enhance it, to be honest with you.
It's a constant discussion with Derek and a lot of the committees that we meet on, and we're having our first annual Marvin Day celebration over there June 3rd, so you can look forward to it. Second, sorry.
Send them a day late, Joe.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming in and actually.
Well, thank you for listening. That helps.
Because you had an issue that you didn't have an understanding of, and you came in, and we welcome that. We want people to come in, whether it's misinformation, and instead of passing something on that's not, we appreciate you coming in and asking the question and clearing up, because someone's gonna ask you, and now you can clear it up.
I will pass it along, yes.
Thank you
back
so
and
much.
we'll
Thank
give you another tour.
Thank you for your service as a firefighter as well.
Thank you. Eric, take care.
Thank you so much, appreciate.
Okay, so I'm going to make a motion to close the public hearing.
All's in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion
Do
passes.
we have any additional discussions?
No comments?
Okay, so I'm going to make a motion to adopt an ordinance to rezone the subject property located on Newtown Road and further identified as parcel number 204-014A to R Marvin Residential Zoning District, and find that the proposed zoning map amendment is consistent with the Village of Marvin 2020 Land Use Plan and other officially adopted village plans, and is reasonable and in the public interest, and are consistent with the surrounding uses and zoning.
Further discussion?
And no.
All's in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? Motion passes
I
unanimously.
do have a question.
Oh,
The gentleman just was here. He said he owns 2 acres at the front. He's in the process of trying to sell it. Could we go, if he does put it on the market, can we go ask him to voluntarily annex it? So then when he sells it, it'll be in Marvin, then we'll have something else?
that would be, from a real estate standpoint, that would be a,
Maybe yes, maybe no.
I agree, but it's, usually you don't, the
You can't
sellers don't want to
understand.
change anything when they're going to sell.
Let's
It's not
soon
bad.
blow those over.
Yeah.
Just a quick point of clarification, you could not annex that. It's part of an existing subdivision, part of Walden Pond, and to annex that, you'd have to have the entire subdivision come in. Since it does not touch our normal corporate limits.
This,
the park is,
what we're annexing is across the street.
we can annex that because it's not part of an existing subdivision. It's not in Walden Pond,
okay.
it's not in any other
And
one.
it's a satellite annexation, so that's where you have to have the.
But
full
I asked him
subdivision.
that when I was showing him around. Yeah.
That's why he comes here early.
Well, he was wanting to talk to Austin, but I took him around and gave him a tour instead.
All right, so we're moving on, no more questions. Okay, Village Hall.
I don't have anything.
Your mic wasn't on.
It is on.
I do.
Oh,
Okay, Andy?
we do have a paver update.
Yes, we have a paver update. I'm
Not
in the process
100%.
of putting the paver sidewalk and ring around the flagpole. Corey and I put the gravel in yesterday, and as soon as I can get my schedule worked, I will be laying the pavers and finishing it up. So we're in process.
And we will have the paver policy coming in the next couple of meetings, just so y'all are aware. This is sponsorship.
Sponsorships.
The engraving.
And
all
where's that
stuff.
money gonna go to?
Village Hall capital projects.
Okay.
I'm just kidding.
Christina Amos. Yeah.
Can I give you all a brief update on the AV?
Yes.
So we are most of the way there, as you can clearly see. There are still a few kinks in the system in here that we have to work out. Some things not quite working like they should, but it's definitely workable, and I think the result is great. We still have to finish up in the community room over here. We've got to get the TVs in the lobbies working. And I think there's a component or two they're going to come in and install next week. Once we get the tables in for the community room, they'll come back and patch in the data line in there to the new conference room table. So we're really close to being finished.
And then when the tables are, I don't know if we got, they did say it'd probably be this week that the tables would come in and they'll come in for that to add the equipment.
Yep,
you said?
I'll need to steal Andy for an hour or so to help patch in the AV box for the table, but then they'll come in and finish the install for that room.
Physical box into the table.
I can give Eric a call and find out when, those things are heavy.
So I got a question about the camera, because I saw you playing with it. Is there any way that it can like be the right way on the screen?
So yes, I need to set the presets. We still got to set the presets right now. We can flip between the audience view.
Yeah, but
and-
see, like Ed should be right there in my picture, and he's over there. Actually, I can't even
So,
see
oh, you
him.
mean it's mirrored?
It's
mirrored,
yeah.
yes.
It's so,
I don't like that.
that's a question I don't know the answer to, and it's going to take some time to learn.
Okay, well, let's find that out, because that's irritating.
But like I said, I don't know if that's something that we can change, but if we can, I'll look into it.
I'm not taking a picture.
I have a list of issues and questions.
I don't do that.
I have a list of issues and questions that I have to communicate with the AV people. But yes, I will add that to the list.
Fantastic.
But yeah, so.
Thanks. When's my table getting fixed?
Andy, I have the stain color now.
Good. I was waiting for that update, so yes. Soon. Soon.
Dangers of having a scissor
All right.
lift above a table.
All right, moving on.
Jamie?
That was me chewing on it.
What happens when I don't bring dinner to our
Next up, unfinished business. Update on elected officials' liability. Who's got this?
I've got it.
That would be our attorney.
That would be me. And I have coordinated a lot with Manager Amos and the North Carolina League that does our insurance with these issues and researched it. And here in Marvin, we're unique because we have elected officials that are very involved doing manual labor and even machinery. And that's great, but with insurance, it causes problems. And we're not worried about a broken arm. We're worried about a broken back. I mean, we're worried about the catastrophic injuries that can happen. You have two general types of insurance. You've got your general liability and your workers' comp. So insurance is great, but they're only going to pay for covered losses. They're going to look for exemptions, and there are a lot of them out there. Also, when you start getting to the catastrophic area, your claims rep's going to move from regional, the North Carolina, the one that may have a approval level up to a certain amount, to the excess coverage. And those people are going to be looking at ways to limit their exposure. So what do you have to have with general liability? A duty of care, a breach of that duty, and damages. Like, what is that? Well, that's our law school 101, a duty of care, a breach of care, and damages. Think of it on a municipal level where you have our sidewalk. It's got a big crack in it where it's raised. You know about it. You have a duty to maintain certain sidewalks. You don't fix it after you put on notice. Somebody trips, got a duty of care. You know about it. You didn't fix it. You've got a breach. They fall and break their arm. Damages. Compare that to somebody that's working and they're working on the exit sign there and they put up a ladder and they fall. Well, there they may not have been fault. How is there a breach of duty? How is there a breach of care? Well, then you come in with what is typical with workers' comp, and it's often referred to as no-fault insurance. Accidents happen, even with, sometimes it's the machinery, sometimes it's the ladder, sometimes the machinery or a ladder has been modified after years. You can't really pinpoint who to blame. And workers' comp came in as a policy rationale to protect employees. If you're working within your scope of duty, you're going to be covered. And that's important because accidents happen and sometimes there's nobody to point to and you want to get people covered. The interesting thing about workers' comp, though, is how they define an injury. An injury shall mean only injury by accident, and here's the key, arising out of an employment. You can have elected officials covered under workers' comp, and they're included in the statute, but it's got to be related to their job scope and their employment. Also, what they call is casual employment is excluded. So if you really aren't an employee, if it's some type of casual arrangement, they can find another grounds for exclusion. So you as elected officials, your job responsibility is generally policy and management. If you look at the general statutes, the government and general management of the city shall be vested in council. That's the management. And you usually have employees or contractors to implement that policy, to do the work. So we don't know if somebody would be covered. What are your options? And then you're like, okay, thank you for telling us everything's unknown. Now give us some choices. Your first is you can have somebody sign a waiver. It looks great on paper for the benefit of being able to participate and help the community involvement. I hereby waive, release, discharge the Village of Marvin from any claim arising of or related to this work. That's great on paper, because I don't think that this village council really wants to exclude somebody who's volunteering and gets hurt. And like I said, I'm not talking about the broken arm. I'm talking about if somebody really gets hurt, they can't work for 6 months, a year, or for the rest of their life. You never know. And lawyers we're taught to think of worst case scenario. And that's what I'm thinking about. So yes, you could do a waiver and it may well be enforceable, but then whoever gets hurt, whoever's volunteering for the village, or their dependents, their wife, husband, children, whoever, didn't get coverage. So that's there, but it's got problems. The other option also isn't great, but it's another option. And for small towns, you can actually hire elected officials. There are limits on compensation because you can't pay them too high, but it's also got to be compensation. We have certain rules with compensation. We have minimum payments, and then you've got things like FICA, Social Security, and everything else. There's also a specific approval process because they want you to approve the contract. You have to post a summary of it in a conspicuous place and everything because they don't want secret contracts with government employees. With elected officials, I'm sorry. So it does provide workers' comp, but the other issues are, it could be challenged under, it's a doctrine called incompatible office holding. Basically, you shouldn't be an employee and the policymaker. I think challenge is unlikely, in all frankness, because they made an exemption under the general statute of self-dealing for municipalities less than 20,000 people. Compensation is less than $60,000. The policy space, as long as you go through all your checks, but it hadn't been decided. Then you do have the logistics and the perception of hiring an elected official. You may not like that. But if you move forward, you have an employee. It's great. It's going to get you your workers' comp. You're going to have to pay the employee. You may not pay them what market value would be, but you got to pay them. You've also got to pay the other costs associated with employees, such as Social Security, FICA, insurance, and that workers' comp insurance. Because if you want coverage, you're going to have to pay for it. If you want coverage for that additional risk, you're going to have to pay for it. And then you've got the administrative, I don't know if you call them burdens or responsibilities, but somebody's still got to manage the additional staff to some extent. Either they're elected officials, still have to handle that, to govern, and make sure everything gets sent in, such as the paperwork, the payroll, the insurance. In the end, it may well not save the village money by the time you go through this, and make sure you go through the steps to get somebody covered. And then you have other issues of, if an elected official is an employee, how do you govern hours? How do you govern how much they work? How do you govern who manages? If it's limited, I think you can handle it, but it does put some sticky situations where you've got an elected official and other people that normally would be able to manage and control, but can put them in an awkward position.
What's option number 3, Chaplain?
Option number 3, and I was going to give you option number 3. That was going to be my closer. I was talking with the league about this, and I was like, yeah, it's a little bit odd. And they're like, it's a bad idea. And we talked about it again, and they said it's a bad idea because of the unknown. And
Life's full of unknowns. Like, are we really going to live our life like that?
Accidents happen. People fall off ladders a lot. Machinery loses the protective covering that it's supposed to have after being used for 15 years. And some rock comes back and ricochets. Things happen, but y'all at least need to go in with knowing what the risks are and the benefits are.
What's option number 3?
And 3s don't do it. Bad idea.
All right, bad idea.
All
right.
So
Don't do it. Bad
option
idea.
number 1 is a waiver and release.
So what's the difference between somebody on council signing a waiver because they're doing work versus a volunteer who's signing a waiver? Isn't it the same thing?
It's the same thing.
So why are we even having our volunteer sign it if it's like, doesn't really mean anything? And it's not really going to
Oh, I didn't say it didn't mean anything. I said you may not want, especially an elected official that's putting in hours and hours volunteering for the village. If somebody gets hurt, you might not want to go, golly, they broke their back, but we don't have to pay.
But I'd be more worried about the volunteer that it doesn't have the connection versus one of us suing the village but I mean, I just don't, I'm not equating like, can we even have volunteers do work now? Because if it's not worth what we're paying you for essentially to write up that contract to say, okay, you're writing a waiver, but you're saying, yeah, there's workarounds that we could still be at risk.
It is not uncommon for volunteers with a Clean Up the Creek program or some type of other thing, just volunteers to sign a waiver and release. They come in for one event and they get the benefit, the camaraderie, the community, and they're usually not working with machinery, electricity, and other things. The risk is usually lower, and that is common. It's less common for an elected official and somebody that's working a lot.
So, done this before, you take off the hat of mayor or council member and you're saying, you're Citizen Joe now.
That's
and
all I do.
I'm a volunteer, and that's all, I'm doing this work, whatever it is, as a volunteer. I think the work that we're limiting it to is risk averse. We're not asking people to go up on their. Well, we did, but we wouldn't let them, we'd do it all the way till we got the ladder and put it up on. Yeah, we'd let Kim go up there, yeah. No, once he puts the ladder up there, I'm just thinking, maybe we can.
But the ladder is your perfect example, and it's been used here, is somebody
I mean,
does
we've
slip
been
and fall.
decorating,
That's no
I saw
fault.
people up on the tree,
Wayne almost had to catch me.
on a tree, decorating a Christmas tree.
And you say you're not worried about somebody sue it. Well, if one of you gets hurt, y'all may well want them to sue and get the insurance, because your waiver of sovereign immunity is going to be limited to that covered by insurance. But then if it's real bad and they're like, well, an elected official, their responsibility is for policy and management. An employee should be doing that work. They're not an employee. They didn't pay workers' comp. That's separate insurance. We're not covering it. And then there's no compensation. But that's the risk. And y'all may be fine with that, but you need to know it.
Well, we certainly didn't have insurance for 2 council members that got sued. So, and they got stuck with it, and, you know, if I'm gonna sign a waiver to do work, then I know the risk. So,
Well, and there are two issues of whether you as a council want a waiver, or if you want a waiver for elected officials and outside volunteers, because there's a different,
Level of responsibility.
yes, and different amount that's being done. That's y'all's decision, that's a policy decision. But y'all, I'm saying y'all might not want the waiver. Y'all might not want to have,
And just let them do the work?
but if you do that, you've got to know that the insurance company, if you get sued, it could get denied. May be able to get it covered. It is unknown, and we asked the league other ways around it, and then I went through the workers' comp, went through the statutes, and looked, and we both came up with workers' comp is the most certain way to cover somebody. But the other way is you let it roll and you take the risk, but you know the risk is there.
So Chaplain, I'm better served by getting real life scenarios. So Andy's out there, he's laying the papers, and he goes to do a paper and it breaks his finger. Now he's got a broke finger, but he was doing it because he was laying papers. I mean, he doesn't sue the village, but let's just say he goes, you know what? I'm gonna sue the village. What happens then? Because just give me real life examples of what can happen. Like Kim's putting the Christmas tree up, and she's on the ladder. She falls off the ladder.
That's a better real-life example, because I said I'm not worried about the broken arm, I'm worried about the broken back. Kim falls off the ladder.
and I get you.
Unfortunately not.
Except both Wayne and Kim.
She's paralyzed. No, I mean, no, she's paralyzed. She
I didn't sign a waiver.
didn't sign a waiver. She brings a lawsuit against the village, as she should. Not saying what, that would just be the normal thing. Her husband will also bring a lawsuit against the town for loss of consortium. They'll bring that. And the insurance may say, one, probably try to make a claim under workers' comp, or you try to go under the general liability. Workers' comp, it could get denied because it's going to say you're not an employee. General liability, they could deny it, and they might not. That's why it's great. But they might not. General liability would be, where is our duty of care and where's our breach? Especially if she was at fault and wiggly or got nervous or something. But there's got to be a duty of care.
So then insurance denies it because you're saying that if I sue the village.
But there may not be coverage.
Right.
And then,
So then
Who's at risk?
hold on. That's where we're getting muddy here, because we're trying to figure out how we're protecting the village, but we're also trying to figure out how we're protecting us if we decide that we want to do work. So I fall off the ladder, I sue the village. You guys turn it into workers' comp, they deny it. You guys turn it into general liability, they deny it. So I'm taking you to court now, like we're going to court. And the judge is like, yep, all the insurance has been denied, but you guys let her go up on the ladder. Now the village has to pay. Is that our biggest?
no, my biggest risk, if that's the case, if insurance doesn't cover it, you should have some sovereign immunity. Because generally, there's
So
only,
then I'm not getting paid.
you're not getting paid. That's the risk.
That's the risk. We're
That's-
more worried
that's-
about us
Yes.
than we are the village as a whole getting sued and losing money.
I mean,
You're worried about
you should
me
worry-
falling off the ladder and not being able to, then I'm paralyzed and now I get nothing. Like,
And theoretically, you could be
I mean, my
more
$7,000
concerned
a
with,
year is, you know,
yeah, your general liability insurance rates going out the roof.
right.
Because they're like, what did y'all do?
So,
That could go out the roof.
Okay, so I signed a waiver. I'm going to get up on the ladder. So now I've fallen.
Still sue. But no, I think you have two risks. One is your insurance just going out the roof if there's a claim. I think y'all can handle that, looking at things from the big picture. For me, it's more of knowing that your volunteers may not be covered.
Okay, so, all right. So I feel like we have, I mean, this is again another real life example because I'm with Jamie. I need to work in like what could actually happen. So we have a situation that we have been asked to volunteer to clean up tires. And one of these said volunteers is planning on going out there with a chainsaw.
Yeah.
So
Not me.
this is literally happening right now. Not tonight, but this is going to happen in like 2 weeks. So if that's the case, then because they have come to the village and said, hey, village, help us out here. So we've got a board member, not council member, but we have a board member who has said, I'll go out and use a chainsaw and cut a path. I don't feel great about that after this conversation. I mean, I don't
Yeah,
feel like,
I don't think there'd be coverage there anyway.
okay, because they're, but it was asked to be,
Yeah, they
and
just
we
asked
have
us for that.
people doing work.
Right, but that's what she's saying, is that it was asked. So what she's asking is, Chaplain, should we say
So,
yay or nay on
right,
this?
so
Because
they've
are we-
now asked us for help, and so now it's like,
That's on.
I
so
mean,
we
that's a
should
whole nother
basically say, That's
conversation.
on you. We're not giving you a yes or no, that's on you. If you wanna go out there and do that and start your chainsaw, you go right ahead.
Yes.
But you're not getting an affirmative or a rejection from us.
Right, that's.
go get him, Ed, I hear him, get him.
But,
You can't hear them.
so, all right, so Marvin Day. Marvin Day, storm comes, stage roof collapses, hits me on the head. I'm just volunteering.
Then I think you're there as a representative for the village. You're not doing physical labor. You're there within your, I think that is within your scope of authority. I think that would be covered under general liability.
Should, because we're representing the village.
You're
as-
representing, that's in your capacity as an elected official. An elected official generally doesn't crank up a chainsaw and work around town hall. An employee does, or a contractor does. An employee has workers' comp insurance, and a contractor should too, under North Carolina law, and it's mandated if you're
And you're-
above a certain size.
And you're there, you're not putting the stage up, you're there overseeing, doing the thing, so,
Right, so, but then basically putting up Christmas lights around or,
yeah, I mean, that was kind of part of my, like,
Mhm.
doing my duty.
but like when Andy and I came and did the landscape lights. Now, what if I'd have got,
Electrocuted.
right,
Luckily, they're low voltage.
That was the reason why we did low voltage.
That's why we did that.
Okay,
Andy told me to
there's
take
probably
this-
some other electrical that's being done, like in here. And if there's some other electrical that isn't low voltage and something bad happens, it's an unknown.
I think the bigger concern is you guys start messing with low voltage and then do something electrically and it burns down the building. Then what?
I just hate all these what ifs, and it just.
There are a lot of
It just
what
creates it just creates a scenario where we as council members can't really do anything. To do, volunteer to do anything.
I think, I think
agree.
it's gonna come down.
I think sometimes it can be, I think light stuff, and it's especially going to Marvin Day. I mean, that's part of what you would expect as a elected official, but I don't think people expect an elected official to crank a chainsaw or.
But we're clear, let's say we got a
Done it for
trail.
years.
and I'm
Lanny
pulling
used to
down
do
a
it
vine.
daily.
I pull down a vine and the whole thing comes crashing down on me. I shouldn't have been out there pulling down vines. You can make, an attorney can
Yeah.
make an argument, I shouldn't be out there.
Should have
pulling
had an
down vines.
employee doing
I
that.
should have had a hard hat on. That doesn't fall under my council thing, but all I wanna do, I'm helping try to clear a trail. So basically, you basically cut everyone off from going, where can, what can we do to help?
Can't help it.
I am more concerned with machinery, because machinery also gets into other regulations for employees such as OSHA. Then we talk to the league, well, should we train them? And they're like, well, if you train them, then that could be even worse, especially if they're not an employee. operating machinery is something elected officials generally don't do for a village they represent. So there's risk. I am not saying the insurance company is going to deny or prevail. I'm saying there's a chance of it, and you can see their argument, especially if it's catastrophic. And catastrophic is when it's so bad.
So correct me if I'm wrong, if I read this right. So let's say we go the waiver route, and Jamie and I, and we want to do some work here, and we signed a waiver.
You're like, I've got health insurance, the risk is low,
I mean,
I'll
and
take
then
it. And you
we're
can do
taking
that.
it, and it's light work, because I'm not going to do crazy stuff, or quite frankly, do machinery and stuff. If it gets the machinery, then we have to decide as a council, you need it. I know, I did want to. But at the end of the day, if it's light work, and we sign a waiver, we have to know as council members that we could potentially, if a major issue happens and it gets denied insurance, that's our risk individually we are taking as council members. And that's what I'm hearing. So I'm okay with that, because Andy, you're going to make that decision on your own. You're going to make a decision on your own. That I just want to help out, and I'll sign the waiver, understanding that it may go down the route of an insurance claim, and it may be denied to cover me, and I'm okay with that.
And a waiver will, and I told you the insurance, I told you how they could deny it. You're not an employee, no breach of care. If you do a waiver, that'll be a third potential strike. And that's another policy decision y'all need to make internally for elected officials. Versus outside
Third
volunteers.
strike.
Or you could say, you
Oh,
could have
for
a
the insurance
policy that
company.
anybody
Yeah.
coming in has to sign a waiver.
Yeah.
Or you could have anybody not on council. Does that make sense? Because you'll may,
No, it all makes sense.
because you
We're just
would,
trying to
you
put
would think that a council member would be more intimately involved, less likely to sue, but then also, if you get somebody really hurt, it's going to be their dependents that will have, they can have a separate claim.
One thing I just wanted to mention real quick, which I haven't even, I don't even think this has been addressed, but machinery around other employees too, like if a council member.
Like if Andy ran over Cody yesterday when he was doing the stuff. Corey.
Because we
Right?
currently
I mean-
don't have any training for our employees around equipment. Now, obviously, you would think common sense, stay away within a radius, but, I mean, we can't always assume that people have that common sense. Do we have a duty of care to properly train those employees if they're going to be around said machinery? I mean,
No, that's a good point, because there's the third party. All of this is thinking what can go wrong, and I get that. Should be fine, but high-powered machinery sometimes does weird things, and everybody needs to hear that and know that you're going to assume that risk, or know that you want to do something a little bit different and try to mitigate.
Do we sign one waiver, or do we sign a waiver every time we go to do
each event.
I mean, really, it should be each event. You kind of need, because if you're not an employee, you shouldn't be doing day-to-day maintenance. That's why you have employees.
Well, we're not doing day-to-day maintenance, we're doing projects, yes. So such as we did the lights out here, okay, or such as doing the paver thing, taking on projects that are improvements, not necessarily day-to-day maintenance. These guys do the day-to-day maintenance. I'm not hopping on a lawnmower, and riding around the park. I'm doing a project, so it's a little different than like a day-to-day maintenance kind of situation.
Okay, yeah, then I would have one for each project, and we could do projects broadly. And maybe, or we could do them annually, anything at Village Hall for the next 12 months.
I mean, I'm at the thought process that we are all adults, and if we want to take that risk and you want to sign a waiver, then do it.
Because we don't go into it going, hey,
I'm gonna fall off that ladder.
But if I were to add on that, and we sign it for the year, and it's good for all the little things that we decide, the projects we decide to jump in on. However, when it comes a new election cycle, that new election official, we all sign that agreement again, because you don't know that individual is coming in that wants to take advantage of something like that. I mean, for me, all day long, I'll help out with a project and take the risk just because of my own insurance. That's just, that's me personally, and if I'm personally signing that, I know that risk.
I mean, poor Chaplain hates that answer, but I think we all feel the same way.
I don't hate this. I want to
Christina hates this. This gives her heartburn.
There's a lot of paperwork for Austin.
For law, and sometimes attorneys forget the second part, they counsel, but that means they give advice and the clients get to make the decisions. So I'm supposed to let everyone know of the risk associated with it, ways to mitigate it, and if y'all are fine, that's fine, but there is a risk that one of y'all could get hurt. And if it's catastrophic, I mean, the latter one is easy because people do break their backs. And, you could run into medicals of $1 million a year for 10, 12 years.
And all this came about from kind of my looking into things and understanding that we've got some risks that we need to probably address from a standpoint of staffing, and you guys as well, just understanding the risk that you potentially could get hurt and there's no coverage, so that y'all are aware of that and you're taking it to your own risk. But at the end of the day, like, I want to make sure y'all understand what that exposure and that risk is, but I also want to make sure our employees are protected in a sense that whoever's operating equipment around them, no offense, I'm not meaning this towards you, know what they're doing and that we can be assured that they're not going to get hurt in any way, shape, or form. If that means a debrief at every point in time where the equipment is operated, hey, this is the rules that we're going to have today. Don't come around me within 10 feet or whatever those rules are. We talk about it, we discuss it, sign off on a liability little log or a training log, and go about the day so that we know what those things are. I can tell you, we have not done a good job from a standpoint of requiring PPE and training that probably should be had with machinery, meaning chainsaws, other little things that we may use, because we've grown so fast in the last 5 years that anything that we've done has typically been contracted out. And now we're to the point of we've taken on, the maintenance of this, whereas we were down here at the old Village Home, we didn't have to maintain much of anything, and we had a park that we didn't really do much of other than cutting grass. So I just want to make sure the employees are protected and we're doing what we should be to make sure that they are also.
Well, there should be a safety program, and there should be OSHA training. Whoever the manager is should be trained, but there should also be a safety program put in place. Any of the places that I've ever worked at in this kind of a realm have a safety program in place, and you're made aware of it. You get a handbook that outlines what you're supposed to do, and you have to sign that you have read and understood that you are trained. And that covers the employer, that the employee has been trained, and they acknowledge that they've been trained. Now, if they go and screw around and do something that, such as they're drinking on the job, they're impaired or whatever, then it's no fault of, it's the employee's fault for not following the guidelines. And that's where a lot of these companies do this kind of thing, especially in danger inherent jobs.
And I definitely 100% agree with that. Unfortunately, Derek and I have been trying to do that. There is just no time in our days to spend on implementing safety. We don't have the staff hours to spend on trying to figure all that out, unfortunately. And we should, because it should be a priority.
Well, it should be maybe a manual that's created at some point. There's got to be some stuff that we don't have to reinvent the wheel. Have a manual that's given to the new employee or existing employees. They sign
It's
off.
third party. You want somebody qualified too. There's third parties that can come in that have the manual and they need the training.
And it's keeping up with it. It's keeping up with who's done what person needs what training. It's got to be more specialized, because I might need training on how to use bleach. I'm just going to use that for an example, how to properly use bleach to clean a toilet, whereas Derek needs training on how to run a chainsaw, or Austin needs training on how to do something in the AV closet, climb a ladder, something like that. So it's all it's all individualized as to what their scope of duty is, and it could change with various positions. The road maintenance person or the public works director that we're gonna hire, they're gonna need more specialized training on road type equipment when we get to that point. Those type of chemicals that are associated with road stuff.
The public works director is gonna have to handle the safety situation for the entire village. They're gonna have to coordinate that, and you should have monthly safety meetings, and that's just part of it, that everybody gets refreshed on these kinds of things.
So what's our action item here? Is our action item that we make a motion?
Be aware.
Signing waivers for special projects, as moving forward?
Based on this conversation, yeah, figure out which option we want to pick, you know?
We don't need a motion, do we? We do need a motion?
Yeah, if y'all were going to require that, I do think you ought to do it formally.
Do we need a policy, a formal policy written for them to vote on for that? That'd probably-
So do you think you could work on writing up a policy for the work session for us to just look at and, you know, something fairly simple? But I think the general consensus is we as council are okay with volunteering and signing
And any
waivers, knowing
volunteers.
that we are at risk, and then,
We have no coverage from the village.
And I've already sent waiver language for other things. That's how I can spit it out of my head. This is pretty common. So the village already has some waiver forms from some other things, but they'd just be implemented into the policy that when you have volunteers, they sign up a waiver for the project.
We already do those kind of waivers for Eagle Scout projects.
Is that the one we did? I remember doing one and sent it. Or I think we've done a few, but we've got the waiver forms already out.
we were having so much fun getting so much done till you got here.
I know. Messing everything up.
Make it all legal and everything, so.
All right, so we're good?
Yep, all right, thank you. New business. Discussing, where am I at? Oh, shoot, I was trying to skip over that one. Discuss and consider entering agreement with Providence Landscape Group not to exceed $43,351 with the contingency of $2,500 and authorize manager to execute agreement contingent upon attorney review and direct staff to prepare future budget amendment.
Me?
Who's this?
Names on it.
So I went back to the three vendors that I'd spoken with in terms of the landscaping quotes. I did get the third reply back. It was noted in your packet that the vendor had not been responsive. They did get back to me. Their response was very similar to that of North Americans in that they don't do excavation. Their plans would be, as they quoted, to just be amend the soil, you know, in the holes. Right. So, you know, the Providence quote went up a little bit, but it is specific to what we're requesting. I had a representative from PRG, the one who drew the plan, meet with me, and she was right on page with what they were offering to do. And I mean, I don't think there's anything missing now. They're very eager to work with us, and you know, they're very eager. So, I mean, you can see the details provided in the packet. Obviously, some substitutions may take place. We can handle those on a case-by-case basis, and as the project manager, I would have to approve those as they come up, but overall,
Says removal of clay soils to a depth of 6 feet.
6 feet.
Yeah, one slash means feet. The other says an import and place composted topsoil to a depth of 6 inches.
Yeah, 6 inches, sorry.
Okay, I just want to make sure that they're
One little.
quoted right.
One
6
mark.
feet, 6 inches is a lot of difference. Yeah. Okay.
One little.
Okay. Derek, on the picture, what is CE? Because I'm looking at the symbol, but I can't figure out what a CE is. I don't see it, unless I'm just missing it. Oh, I did miss it. Sorry. Never mind. I just saw it. Sorry. Okay.
And obviously, the pine straw bales are going to be subject to how many, what we're actually putting pine straw on, because 125 bales is going to be way too much if we're going to put mulch in these beds around the building. The only pine straw would be that back tree line,
Yeah.
so that would change
I
that
mean-
number dramatically.
He and I walked it. He had it at 125 bales based on 40 foot a bale, 40 square feet a bale. So that's just what they use. I mean, that's not, listen, I don't think that that's gonna make or break his willingness to work with us. I mean, if that's a contingent that you want me to address and we do it on our own at 60, we'll do it on our own. I mean,
I'll tell you what, I'll sign a waiver and I'll go spread the pine straw. How's that? I don't think I'll get hurt spreading pine straw.
If you do it with a chainsaw.
I've never used a chainsaw to spread pine straw. That's an interesting concept
I'm
there.
gonna have to take up for
Yeah,
chaplain.
shredding pine straw.
I wound up with $127,000 worth of surgery for walking the dog.
Well, don't do that again.
Derek, on the quote, does it have the tree line? I got it, never mind.
yes, it's listed as screening plants. That,
Okay, I mean, I think this is crazy expensive. I mean, this seems just bonkers to me.
Why do they have, they have on here, I'm trying to find the labor cost. Because I know we've got, all the unit prices and stuff in here. And only in one part, it says site prep and cleanup, project labor, 30 hours at $40 an hour, which comes up to $1,100. But the total, I'm just trying to find.
I think what landscapers do,
Project
Jamie,
labor.
or at least mine has, when he gives me a quote, he already has figured into the cost of that plant, how much is, and correct me if I'm wrong, how much it's gonna cost
I
to
get it,
do that
But in this
hour.
one, he's got labor listed.
He's got labor for certain aspects of it, Jamie. What the
It's not
standard
planning.
is that you multiply the retail price of the plant by 2.5. That covers your warranty and your labor to install. So if that plant dies and they give us a year warranty, they've got it in their quote to cover replacing that plant. So that's
And then anything that's not related to a plant, it's actual work, cleanup or whatever, he can assess X amount of hours to that, so that's how it's.
So it looks like the labor cost is,
But I don't understand, the screening plants, he's got project labor at 20 hours. He's got $7 a bale for pine straw, which I know that includes the labor to spread it, because pine straw doesn't cost $7
yeah,
a bale.
keep going down. Keep going. It's like on the fourth page. So I've got basically removal, mulch install, which he's got mulch in the screen plantings instead of pine straw, so that's $450 when he's got pine straw in another spot. So to me here, labor looks like it's about $25,000. And then, so I would question that 6 cubic yards of mulch install. I know it's $450, but at this point, like, this is crazy. So I would want to know,
a second. Kim, I think you're on Brightview's quote.
Yeah,
oh, shoot.
We can't, we throw them out.
Oh, I thought this was all one quote. I'm sorry.
It's
So
all
where
three
is the
quotes.
labor? I mean,
It
this
would-
says where is the total for Providence?
There's 20 hours under mulch and then there's 30 under site prep and cleanup.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if I add all those numbers up, there's no way that this adds up to $43,000.
No,
I mean, you've got trees installed at $1,500. There's no way shrubs,
I may have not scanned in a page, I apologize.
okay, so anyway, so while Derek looks for that, I think this price is absolutely insane. I mean, this is absolutely ridiculous. I know they're marking up the plants. So I had mentioned to Parks Rec and Greenway this morning with not a resounding woohoo, but they kind of were like, oh yeah, we'll kind of help. I asked them if they would be interested or available to help like secure plants, meaning go pick them up. Like we can go to a wholesaler, buy them, pick them up, and then maybe help do some plantings. I know Andy said he'd scrape off the first 6 feet of dirt.
I would do the excavation on my own, nobody around, just me, so that we don't have any interactions with anybody else. I'll sign a waiver to do that, but, you know, and then we can get the soil in there, and if we have some volunteer effort to plant the plants, that's not a really hard, I mean, that should be in the normal realm of volunteerism, planting plants, right?
But
So-
are we gonna get like a, cause like the last time we got like an auger.
Well, we'll have 6 inches of fine topsoil here, so a shovel
Well,
will
with,
suffice.
yeah, but don't you think with some of the big trees we're gonna get?
Yeah,
Big
some of those-
trees, maybe, yes.
The
I might-
trees and some of those shrubs, you're still gonna have to have them all, I mean,
For the evergreens along the property line for the screening, we're probably gonna have to get into something of that nature, but what's, Hunter? Mr. Planner? Screening requirements, is there a minimum size specimen for screening requirements?
I would have to double check. If I recall correctly, it's just a minimum of either 4 to 8 feet for the shrubbery.
So so what they planted out here, they were pretty small and they can be shovel dug. It's only a hole about like this, so they're not that big. And I think that was the minimum that we could do.
At what point can we go ahead and rip these out and be like, we're working on it? Because they look terrible. Like, and, I mean, I know like we're not, like, if we pull them out, like we're in violation of our own ordinance, but they look terrible right now. Can we just go ahead and rip them out?
Yeah, there's nothing again, I mean, because
Okay.
basically as long as there's for example, if this was a active violation case, if there are parameters being put in place to have it mitigated and the violation cured, that's the process. So that would be ongoing.
So what point of the year are we supposed to plant?
Fall's best.
Spring and fall, depending on the plants. You can do spring, especially if it's early spring. And with irrigation, makes a huge difference in that because fall is when you start getting cooler temperatures and moisture weather. So if we have artificial moisture, then springtime is also a decent time to plant.
So if we were gonna do this, we would need to start by mid-March?
Yeah, I mean, that would be ideal.
Okay,
Late February.
so,
Yeah.
okay, which is literally right around the corner. I do not feel good about these quotes. This gives me heartburn. I would like to can I do some more research and bring this back to the work session? Because the $43,000 is, I mean,
What did we get back from Randolph? 6,500?
35.
30?
yeah,
35,
yeah.
Enough to put out the 125 bales per inch.
Yeah. So can we table this for right now and talk about it at the end of the month? Because this is not going to happen this spring. We're gonna prep everything for the fall.
I mean, I agree. It's exorbitant amount of money. I don't
In the
think that we-
meantime, we may be able to do some things.
Yeah, like pull out the old dead trees.
Pull out the old dead trees and,
Let's get rid of those.
you know, maybe that.
So you pick up.
Between us and
back off.
Robbie's.
Yeah, that's
place,
what I'm saying. Pull out the dead,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay,
Well, I mean,
so,
and if,
We may
and
not
we
have
could
to,
always
but
amend the
it is-
soil and put down mulch so that it's just a clean mulch bed to start with, so instead of all these dead plants everywhere.
well, I know, but then we're gonna have to dig, well, I mean, you could do that if you wanna go
Yeah,
ahead and
if we're
dig it
gonna
up.
do In the fall, we can just put a thin layer of mulch just to make it look clean.
You mean go ahead and dig out the 6 feet and then
Yeah.
put the mulch in?
Yeah, exactly.
All right.
I mean, we
Okay.
could do that if we can't get.
So go ahead and make
another
your
plan
motion.
So
together
I'm just
done
gonna make a
spring.
motion to table this until the work session, and let's you and I talk, because I have some ideas that,
You can talk about.
yeah, okay, thanks. Wait, hold on, there's a motion on the table.
Good effort.
Further discussion? All's in favor?
Aye.
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 Any nays? Opposed? None? Motion passes. Next up, we don't show any new business, so we're moving on to open topics. Does anyone have open topic?
I do.
I was going to start with Bob. Do you have any open topics, Bob? Any open
I do
topics?
not. I do not.
Thank you. We'll go to Wayne. Any open topics?
No, I did not.
Jamie? I'm trying to figure out which one to go to.
No, that's fine, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Well, I just want to mention that today is Jill's work anniversary. This is marks 1 year of employment with us, so congratulations for putting up with us for a solid year.
Wow.
Listen, I've cried, I've thrived, I've survived. I'm here.
Sticking around, Jill.
But you had to stay a year, you had in one job.
That's true. I think I've had 3 or 4 since I got here, but that's okay.
Congrats.
Thank you.
Okay. That's an open topic.
Thanks. Y'all are my biggest fans. I love it. You make coming to work easy.
I'm sure I don't.
I was
Just
being
saying, I'm
kind
your
and
challenge
diplomatic,
child here. Anything else? Open topics? Well, I thought that, okay.
That wasn't, I have more than one.
Oh,
That was not my only one, but that was one of them.
That was my only one, so I'm glad I
Okay.
got to do that one.
All right, so I have requested this, and I don't see it on the agenda, and it's Marvin Day, so let's get a quick update on Marvin Day. That's number one.
yeah, I was wondering why that wasn't on the agenda.
It should be on every agenda,
Yeah, really should.
Austin.
All right.
I mean, seriously. Okay. Jill, go ahead. Yell at everybody except me. And Andy, and Hunter. Everybody else. No, you don't even get one, because you need to work harder.
Okay, so big change since the last time we met. We now are up to, there's even been an update since I printed these like 2 hours
Ooh,
ago.
hot
but
dog.
We are now up to 20 sponsors, and let me just pull this up. Okay, so we have 26,500 pledged
Hot dog.
from 20 sponsors.
Who are the
I'm very
newbies?
fond of giving out gold stars to Kim every meeting, and this week I get to give Hunter a platinum star.
Yeah,
because
buddy.
he got a platinum sponsor.
Good
Our
job,
first
Hunter.
one ever.
Wow.
Yeah,
There's only one,
Jane
there's
Holmes.
only one more out there.
I
There
got,
is only one out there, and guess what? I've updated our sponsorship letter, and I've crossed out where it says 2 available, and it says only 1 left. You know, that's like my sales pitch.
Oh,
So
that's good.
who's our platinum?
Lene Home.
Yep.
Good job.
And I think I already gave Austin props for his UCPS thing at our last meeting, right? Okay, so let me say that again. But here's the deal, going forward, because I just have too much to do, Mary is gonna be emailing each of you every week, asking you for your updates. So none of you need to email me one-off emails every time you get or whatever. Just once a week, email Mary your summary of everyone you've talked to and left messages with and what that outcome was. Mary's gonna update this spreadsheet for me, so I don't have to do all
What's
the work.
Mary's email address?
Well, she's emailing you all, so you'll reply, but it's customerservice@marvinnc.gov. And she'll put in her email, the exception to this is if you get a yes from any sponsor, then feel free to shoot her an email and let her know, hey, great news, I got one.
And anyone who's
They
not,
won't come back to us, they'll come to you.
Not always, but
and anyone that's not on this list that we get, like new, like I just brought a new one today.
I added-
Did you
I
get that?
added.
Oh, you
Who
did?
was it? Who was it?
the realtor.
Yeah.
Who was it?
Jay Kerr.
Don Carr's son?
Okay, yeah, that's old news. Who else, who's not on this list? I already knew that. Who's not on this list?
Who's not on the
Yeah,
list?
who did you not update?
There's only 18 here.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
So, well, I did ask my good friend here when he arrived, and I strong-armed him into saying yes while he, as soon as he sat down. So
Good job.
Spencer and Spencer's been
Good
at
job.
it. And then
Thank you, Chaplain.
Yes.
Blue Ridge Trail Works, are they on the list? I called him before the meeting started.
You said still deciding.
Yeah, no, he's on board. He's
Okay.
just gonna at least do bronze, but I'm hoping he goes for
He's on the
silver.
list. Okay,
Oh, and
that's
then
not
I
a new
added
one.
UCPS's gift in kind for all of the
Okay.
parking lots that they kind of donated for 2,500.
Okay,
So I think those two, Spencer and Spencer and
Okay.
UCPS are the two that are missing there.
okay. I'm not sure I'd put the in-kind down because we're not actually getting money.
Well, so we paid and they gave it back to us.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
okay.
so, I mean, I'm gonna put it down. I'm gonna count it
Okay.
because
I mean, they're definitely a sponsor, like, for the
So
list.
what's our goal as far as amount?
More
do
than
you
what we've
need?
got, more than what we did last year.
Which was,
30,000, right?
Okay, so we need more than 30,000 though.
we need 8,000. That'll clear the mark.
Yeah,
Yeah, but we need more than
also
that.
because I'm having a really hard time getting Jones Homes to respond to their original yes of being a gold sponsor that they gave me in September. I've sent multiple follow-up emails that got no reply. So,
Can sort of understand that.
so they're included in the total, but I don't really want to count that until
Yeah.
the check is in my hand. So keep pounding the pavement,
Has
friends.
anybody talked to Beach Homes?
Beechwood, yes. Hunter?
What did they say?
Yep.
What did they say?
Waiting on
They had,
manager approval.
yeah, they basically sent it up to their higher ups, because I reach out to the project managers for those, and I mean, with those, same thing with like Jones Homes, like our initial contact last year was Ben, and then he had to send it up to his higher ups for approval. So I'll just follow up with all of them to see if they can,
Ye-
push the,
Yes, I would say that we are to the point where we need to start picking up the phone and not just emailing. Because we have put a March 1st deadline on sponsorship. So
Agreed.
pick up the phone.
Am I allowed to transition into our fireworks question?
Sure, because we're talking about Marvin Day. Yeah, it's all Marvin Day. And then I still have one more open
Questions
topic.
About sponsorship, anybody who wants to confess that they have yet to start looking at sponsorships? Anyone?
Wait, what was the question?
Has anyone not started picking up the phone and knocking on doors for sponsorships that needs to? Because you, Mr. Mayor, were supposed to find out if
What do you want to know? I'll give you an update.
the New York Life, if they were coming
I
back
meet with
again.
them Friday.
Perfect, make sure you get an answer
I
from
have a
them.
personal meeting with them,
Perfect.
with my wife too, there, so. It's a
Awesome.
little bit of business and a little bit of village stuff, so. Anything else?
Not on sponsorships unless anybody has questions for me. Anyone? Okay, so we do have a fireworks question for you guys. Just keep an open mind to what you're about to hear. The subcommittee is torn kind of 50-50 on whether or not to have fireworks at all at Marvin Day 23 for a number of reasons, just because of how much of the park we have to lose and give up to for safety issues because of the Walden Pond neighborhood and the potential for firework debris and all that stuff. So we're sort of 50-50. We can live without it or we can have them, and we're just curious what council thinks and how you all would feel if we recommended no fireworks show this year.
My first thought was, okay, so we didn't get the stadium for the day, but could we have it for the night and just have people park over there and shoot them off where we shot them off before and go see a fireworks display? Just thinking out loud,
Well,
since you
that
just said
was
that.
on private property where they're shut off. They still could see them, so we could still go that route.
Right, but where would you view them from? You can't,
Park.
you're not gonna see them from the park.
We saw them in Waxhaw.
So I do have an answer on this, actually. The school's track is being repaved, and they're not allowing people to use their field during that time.
We're not using the field.
So
We're
the
using the
questions,
stadium, the sitting area. That's just,
They won't even let us in the stadium because of the fact that the track
I
is
got a
being
key.
repaved.
I'm just kidding.
We can still do fireworks at the park. The question is whether or not you guys, do you want them or do you?
Full disclosure, I've always like, wow, that's very close to homes, and it's like, do we even have the space for that? So I always kind of question, how's that going to go
And can we just
over?
scale them back some?
Or do ground fireworks? Oh,
So to answer your question, we have discussed scaling them back some to make it not so loud, reducing the shell size. So that is an option. If we wanted to keep the fireworks, we could scale it back. I think the question at this point is, does council want fireworks, yes or no? And if so, we can definitely scale them back.
I had one thought too, and I don't know if y'all have seen this, but now they've gone with a new type of fireworks, and they actually use drones to do a fireworks display with LED lights on drones. So it's non-flammable, it doesn't bang, do all that kind of stuff. So it's something new. I don't know if we've even
So
looked into it.
I've seen that too. It's actually really cool. One thing I just thought about too was we've actually already entered that agreement with Pyro Shows. I'm not sure that we will be able to get out of that agreement. I forgot about that.
Well, then maybe we just dial it back some for all these reasons.
Yeah, I believe the subcommittee just agreed today to scale back already to a smaller shell size.
Okay. I mean, if that,
Because it'll save thousands of dollars off.
and if it will save a lot of other situations, I mean, I know space is a huge concern, so.
It's not really going to gain us that much more space, but it's going to save lots of money. Well, we hope it's going to save lots of money to downsize the shell size.
And because of where we are going to be in the park and where they're going to be shot off, it will be like right here. So it's not like we're going to lose the ooh and the ah. But it will save us some money and we'll have a little bit less fallout area.
At least have one great big.
Boom, yes.
yeah.
The finale.
People are going to immediately compare what was last year and this year. Oh, I like last year's
I
better.
think because it's right on top of their heads, it's going to feel probably even bigger than it did last year, and they probably won't even know it's smaller shells. They're going to.
Here, that we could have talked to him about.
Oh, yeah, no, I was not about to bring that up with him. Not a chance.
Can we just, I guess, go around the table and just get a yes or a no if y'all want fireworks?
I have no opinion right now. I mean, there's a lot of balance either way, whatever.
Well, we're already in an agreement, so we're having them.
Okay.
I mean,
And that's all we need to know at this point.
Whether the agreement is one we can get out of, right, or is it not? Is that
Some of them do have parameters with penalties for termination. I cannot remember now.
Yeah.
I mean, you want them. I know you want them. You want them.
I always like fireworks.
You want them.
I want 'em.
Bob, you want them?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a little surprised right now because I'm trying to figure out why we're talking about this now. I thought we were going into the agreement. We were looking at the venue. We decided on Eford Park. So I'm kind of surprised that now we're scaling back. I don't know where this came from, but yes, I would like fireworks, in some sort of way.
Yeah, I think it was as the subcommittee and the working groups started looking at how much of the park we were physically going to lose because of where they had to rope off for safety reasons.
Yeah.
The conversation was had that, is it really worth losing that much park real estate? So, and I didn't answer the question earlier today. I love fireworks. I think they will be amazing. I do think scaling them back to a smaller shell size will save us money, and it will. We are literally going to be right there, so it's going to look giant. So going from a 5 to a 3 will save money, and we're still going to get a great show, I think.
Could we ask Beechwood if we could do it at their property?
Yeah, and I'm good with that. I mean,
Okay, cool.
Thank you.
Down south, so give them a nice view.
Okay.
Okay.
Is that
Anything
it?
else
Do
for
you have
Marvin
one
Day?
more
I do have
open
one more.
topic?
I do.
Okay.
You good for Marvin Day? Okay. All right, so I wanted to address the public comment that was made today about the tires. And a comment was made that they would like the expertise of the village of how to clean up the toxic waste my response to that is the village has no expertise in that. That is not something that we would know how to do. So unfortunately, on that front, we would not have that information. But number two is, again, the statement that was made of, well, we kind of, like, it was here before the neighborhood was here, so it was just kind of there, and now it's our problem. Unfortunately, buyer beware, that is what happens when you buy or purchase property, or you have common space, because we, the village, are literally dealing with it right now with the runoff from the problems that we have inherited from building on this space. So I think if, people want to go and volunteer, I think that is fantastic, but I do not think it is the village's responsibility, unfortunately, because we are not going to the rest of the community and saying, hey, guys, we have this stormwater issue because Providence down south and all of their water is coming over because DOT put this giant pipe here. We're not asking them for money. We're not asking them for volunteers to come out and try to figure that out. And as the representative was here during that, we are shelling out at least $20,000 to try to figure out how to get this to work. If they have to shell out a couple $1,000s, I think they can handle that. If you guys want to go volunteer.
So I would agree with you on a lot of points that you made, but does it make sense to officially discuss it and put it on the work session?
We've already officially discussed it and said that we weren't interested.
Yeah, and I think this could be noted in the minutes as well.
Okay. All right.
Now, Jamie has a different thought process that he may want to address, but that is mine. And just sitting here in this meeting tonight highlighted the issues that we have at Village Hall site that we didn't know about. Well, we have to deal with it. And unfortunately, they didn't know about it, but it's on their property. They need to deal with it.
Well, I'm always one that says you take a look one step back. So the developer who came in there to develop that, did they know it was there?
Yes, they had to. It was surveyed.
Right.
Should have done a phase one environmental
Yes, right. So at that point, what he should be doing is going back to them and saying, okay, all right, help us out here. And maybe you want to have some of your people from the development company to come out and help. That's point number one. So maybe his, I guess, I don't know what you call it, his plight to us should be maybe directed at the developer. However, as I told Kim, I said, because when I just heard about it today from Christina, and she was in, and I was like, you know what? We're always looking for a way to provide goodwill back to the HOAs and to the neighborhoods. Again, and I totally agree with everyone on this. I don't know, what, or if, I just want, like I told Christina today, I just want to chew on it a little longer to see what can we do, and if it's nothing, then it's nothing. But, as I talked with Christina and then Kim and I talked about it, and I started thinking, I'm like, there was no way that somebody developed that land and that wasn't found. So I think maybe we do respond back to them in some way and say, you know what, we're setting precedent that we can't set. Someone else can come back to us. And I would recommend them going back to the developer and saying, hey, we're looking for some help here.
So another point, as we're talking about liability, if there are truly toxins coming off of these tires, I mean, are we going to take on that liability for other people? I mean, I'm not going to go out there and mess with a bunch of tires that are leaking toxins. I'm not going to breathe that stuff in, and I'm certainly not going to have a village sanctioned event where we've got volunteers out there with chainsaws. So again, I'm just not.
That's what we learned.
It's a sticky wicket. Yeah, yes.
I think it goes to due diligence. You bought the property, you also brought the common space. I'm a quarter of a mile from that dump. In my common area that me and two other board members, we walked the entire thing before that we ever signed off with the developer. We went up there, we also had him survey, we staked all the property so we could go back and know what was our property and what was somebody else's. But it comes in the due diligence when you take over a community, the people that are on the board, they take over the responsibility of making that due diligence. If not, you go back to the developer.
Which is probably long gone by now.
Toll Brothers, they're not gone, they're here.
But they have no agreement. They probably
Yeah,
signed
but
off on it.
listen, he's pressing us, someone who has no skin in the game.
Right.
So our thing back to him, again, I'm just trying to look and find a way to provide goodwill or provide some kind of positive response back to them, an option back to them. And after thinking about it and talking to both Christine and Kim, my thing was just like, well, wait a second, that was there before it was done. So my advice would be go back to Toll Brothers and say, listen, you knew this was there, or if you didn't, something was wrong. So can you
I'm sure
provide
they
us
considered it
some-
to build
ask
on
for something, I don't know what you
at
asked
one
for.
point. So who is going to be the messenger from that, what we're discussing? I mean, we want to get back to him, that's fair, right?
Yep, you can. You're the mayor. You get paid the big bucks, buddy.
There's currently a code enforcement violation in order.
I don't,
So, I mean,
what's that?
you've sent the code enforcement violation. So we're currently operating under a code enforcement violation.
Okay.
So I don't think anything changes from our standpoint unless
I just,
you all.
He asked the question. He wants to know why, like, we're putting him in this position. So somebody, like, should call him and tell him.
I think the redirect would be that we never put you in this position.
The developer
The
did.
redirect is your developer that came in, put you in that position. And our recommendation would be go back to Toll Brothers and say, listen, we found this. You clearly knew it was there because you surveyed this property and walked every inch of it. And our recommendation would be go back to them and whatever you're looking for, whatever makes you feel whole in this should come from Toll Brothers, not from the Village of Marvin.
Our responsibility is enforcement of our codes. And truthfully, if you really want to go back 20 years ago, the village at that time should have enforced that at that time. And this should have been handled way back then. But at this point, none of us were anywhere near this. So we are doing what we're supposed to do as a municipality, is in enforcing our zoning, and it needs to get cleaned up. And it's no different than if it was on my property or if it was on your property. It's still on somebody's private property that needs to be handled. And it's not our responsibility to fix it or provide people to fix it. And it's a liability on us to provide people to fix it. So,
I would definitely get on the horn and let whoever was going to volunteer with the chainsaw to maybe just have them rethink that.
Y'all want me to have that conversation?
I mean, based on what I heard today, I mean, we're not signing waivers.
But it's not a village sanctioned
it's not a
event. So
sanctioned
he wants
event,
to
so
go out there and
yeah, it's
chainsaw
no
it.
different than him cutting
Okay.
a tree in his own
But
backyard.
that is the reason that it should not be, the village should not have anything to do with it. Because like, we can't have people out there doing that kind of stuff and have it a village, like, this is our event, we're organizing it, we've got staff members and like, no.
So again, at this point, Christina, do you feel comfortable just reaching out to the gentleman and just,
Yeah.
or do we need the attorney to, or, you know?
No, I can call him on the way home.
Okay. All right.
I have a question for Jeff.
Call them on the way home. Got them on speed dial.
Like murder, I don't think environmental problems like this there's no time limit where they run out and they only exist.
Now, usually anybody in the chain of title takes it, and usually you would have a phase one, and something like tires would put you on notice to go get it inspected. That's why it seems like they would have known about it.
Well, the property, they have a trail, and the trail takes a weird turn, and it doesn't go around outside because the trail winds up within 100 feet of the tires.
Okay.
And
They
there's
probably
a,
saw when they were putting the trail in.
yes.
Yeah, they diverted it away from it so nobody'd see them.
All right, I'm tired of talking about this.
Okay. Anything else on open topics?
Nope, I'm done now.
I have.
You're welcome.
I have two. Just number one, no, I was at the chamber breakfast meeting the other day and met a gentleman who's new with Tom Tillis's staff. And he sent me, I think he sent it to you too, Christina. I asked him to copy you. Basically saying, love to get together with that, learn more about the village, if there's any way Senator Tillis can be helpful, either now or in the future. So,
Sure, let's invite him. Come on.
you know, I mean, so we could have him here for the upcoming, have a little time for him to discuss.
Not at the work session. The work session is like the
Okay.
whole side of a
Whenever.
whiteboard.
I'll get back to him and say,
Not
we'll
this
have
one.
a time and maybe get either a few of us or we can do it in another meeting format. So that was one. Secondly, is anyone planning to go to this February 16th elected officials reception?
No.
Okay. This may be an opportunity to meet some of the new elected officials that could be on the county commissioner office. And so if,
You should go, Joe.
it's at the Ag Center. It's in Monroe. It's at 5:30 to 7 on a Thursday
I will
evening.
not be available on that date, but I will.
I may be going to, I don't have my phone, I left my phone at home, to the town and state dinner in Raleigh, though.
Okay. Well, I think I'm going to plan to go just to see if I can bend an ear of,
We have our work session the next day.
I know.
Yeah.
you know, see if I can somehow, because it's a couple days before our meeting, and I don't think there's any plan to reach out to any of the county commissioners on what's going on specifically for us. So if anyone would like to join me, just let me know. I think I'm going to let them know that I'm coming. That's all I had. Next up, sorry, where are we at here? Action items.
Okay. I know, seriously, can we put that on the works? I just want to change it. Can you just put it on the consent agenda and just name it mine?
We're not at the ongoing list yet, that's the,
Huh?
we're regular action items right now.
We're on Austin's list right now.
I'm gonna rename it Austin's list and Kim's list.
That's fine.
I will put it in your rules of procedure if I have to.
I invite you to do that. Yes, will you please, until somebody kicks me out of office? I mean, I keep asking.
If
People are
anybody
getting
takes-
tired of it.
All right, I'll do it, okay.
Just tell them, if anybody takes my position, they have to take
They
this
have to
action.
call it, and they have to call it Kim's action item list.
The action item list formerly known as Kim's.
Yeah. So
Okay.
what do you got for us?
Okay. Hunter is going to put the discussion of accelerating the roundabout at Bonds Grove and Waxhaw Marvin on the work session. You guys are going to reach out to county commissioners about a meeting on the water sewer capacity issues. Christina is going to execute the change order with McAdams. Chaplain's going to write that policy to allow you all to work under waivers. Derek is going to bring back the discussion of the landscape quotes at the work session. You guys have tabled that. I promise you, Kim, that I will finish adding Marvin Day to all the agendas. We're going to shrink the shells of the fireworks to reduce costs. I have already emailed the AV people about the mirroring image issue with the video.
Thank you.
And Christina is going to call Milan on her way home.
Can you do something about how that makes me look fat?
No, I can't do that. I can. It could be the mirroring issue. You got to get your good side, you know.
All right.
Just thought I'd try.
All right. Let me grab
All right, next up, Kim's
Thank you.
ongoing action items.
Okay, good. All right, have we heard anything about, because all this kind of goes along with the roundabout. Have we heard, have we gotten an update from DOT? Because I'm talking about roundabout lighting, the crosswalks. Just want to see, because I know we're still, but do we know if it's been awarded?
They did tell me the lowest bidder, I think, was Blythe, and they were
And they're moving forward and everything's
moving
looking
forward.
good?
They haven't given any updates
Okay.
recently, but I'll ask.
Okay, cool. Weather vane, Austin.
I have not heard back from the vendor, so I will follow up again. He might just be backlogged at the moment with other projects, but I'll check.
Okay.
Marvin Day, booze.
No, I don't know. I don't need that. I've already got that.
I wanted to.
Hunter's still working on it. I think I have a wine truck secured. I thought I had a beer truck. They bailed on me today.
Who have you talked to about the beer truck?
The only person that I've spoken to was Middle James, and they said no. I thought they said they were interested and then said no. Kefi Wine is the vineyard. We've left a message for Dream Chasers. They have not called us back. You got a call back from
High Branch.
who?
High Branch.
High Branch. And then I've got Deb Sokol is calling Sycamore and somebody else.
Who's, and I said I wasn't gonna forget this, there's somebody, a brewery that's moving to Ballantyne.
OMB.
They're established, they're just putting a beer garden in the bowl,
Yeah.
as they call it. It's a new
Would they would
development
not
there.
be, I mean, that.
I mean, I am sure, but I mean, I don't know if anybody's reached out to them. I mean, there's my spreadsheet is like, Hunter's spreadsheet's like 8 pages, like it's crazy. So we've just been calling Jill. We're working on it. We'll get them.
Well, the only one I know is Highlands, and they're in, Asheville.
Okay, yeah.
So I just want to say Southern Range is in Monroe. They got some really good stuff as well, and they are actually opening, they're opening like a cool restaurant right around the corner from their brewery. So I could see where they might want to come. so that
Advertise,
they can
okay.
promote their new.
I have that list on the spreadsheet. I have that name on the spreadsheet, so I'll call them.
Indian Land, Lori.
No, not yet. So I thought I had it, and then it's fallen apart. So Hunter thinks he's got one. I'll call some more tomorrow. And so we're still working on it. I think in progress.
Hydraulic study.
But that's in progress. I don't want to take it off until it's done. Have we removed the signs, not a handicap ramp?
We have,
Okay, you can check that off the list. It's at the bottom. It's the second page. You can check off the list the tire dump and the tire dump because you've issued the violation. Those two have been done.
I've already written the FAQ for the branding, I just haven't sent it out yet.
Okay. For the branding? Oh, FAQ, okay.
Where are we at with the, sound?
Oh, yeah, that's the panels, Christina. Have you heard from Rick? Uh-oh.
maybe next week we'll have an update.
Okay.
Well, he said that they will be in, but we've been in communication with him.
Okay.
So hopefully next week we'll have a more official update.
Okay.
They've been ordered.
Yeah.
Just waiting to hear when they're going to be here.
Okay. All right. I'm done. Supply chain issues. I'm done.
I just have a quick question. I see that you've completed the blinds thing. You got any details on that?
So the vendor here, they don't provide the blinds, they only do the wireless connection to get them to work, so we have to find a vendor.
Okay, so you're looking for a vendor?
Talk to our blind people because they did my wireless at my house.
Wireless, you see, I looked on their website, they didn't have that on there.
Yeah, they did.
I'll talk to them though.
Okay,
Yes.
cool.
See if they want to be a Marvin Day sponsor.
Yes, ask them that too.
Yeah, while you're at it.
Hey, you want to give some money?
Hey,
we'll give
I
you some
hit
money.
your consultant, so you hit the blind people, okay?
That's fine, I'm glad you did that.
Did she say yes?
She's ducked multiple emails, but I just messaged her again, so.
All right, council comments. Andy?
Council comments. I'll start with Bob.
Council comments, Barbarino. You got any?
Yeah, I got it. No, I'm sorry. No comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Giant.
Andy?
I'm good, thanks.
Wayne?
No comment tonight.
Goodness, Jamie.
As always, Ed, you and Tommy, be safe. Thanks for what you do. Staff, kudos for all of this, and a shout out to Austin for getting all this put together. And I mean, it's gradually coming together, but I know it's not something that's fun to do, but it's very much appreciated, and we're going to get there. So thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Kim, thanks. Okay, I have just a few. Congrats to Marvin Band. They raised over 4K. Thanks for, we put the signs out in their thing. Kim is one of our biggest purchasers of the mattress sale. And congrats on, to Jamie's point, on getting the screens and all that done, because it opens up the room. We don't got this big TV in front of us. I know. I know. Yeah, I just feels great. I don't know if we've talked, anyone's mentioned this, or if there was, or maybe I'm forgetting, but I just want to say, again, if I haven't already, but that retreat I thought was one of the most productive retreats we've had that we just came off of. So I hope you, staff enjoyed that atmosphere. Hopefully council enjoyed it. That was my first one away. And we appreciate that and all of the work that staff puts, especially as we're coming down to where it's going to get crazy for a lot of us with the
Budget season. Can we talk about food? Can we pick, like, can we pick food?
For what?
For dinners. You're gonna have to feed us.
You want Bombay Grill again?
Ooh, yep.
Oh, yeah, Bombay. Yeah, Bombay.
But don't let Kim pick the spiciness level.
I'll
We'll
get
have
more
a special
spicy. I'll
dish
get one
her.
little tiny one of one.
So, anyway,
Yeah, spice one.
I just saw an issue.
Yeah.
but anyways, so I know there's a lot of work to be done. I think this group, can't thank you enough for being, how we work together and getting things done. And even when there's someone trying to throw the wrench in and not allowing us to volunteer, not listening over there.
There's a sidebar over there.
Yeah.
You know, I do want to add on the retreat, a shout out to Vince and Bridget.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
They did an amazing job to invite us into their home there at Baden Lake, and it was first class, and a big shout out to Vince and Bridget.
Yeah, and they volunteered all of that, just for
Oh, yeah.
the record. I mean,
Yes.
it's not something we paid for, because he told me he didn't want to accept a dime because he didn't want to make it look inappropriate, but they just wanted to do that as a way of thanking council and staff for all the things that we did, but we.
And I ran into him at the grocery last week, and he said, tell Joe and them, he says, if they come and do this next week, we will do lunch and dinner.
Oh, yeah,
I'm pretty
love
sure
it.
they offered up their house as our
Yes.
location for the retreat.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not even kidding. They were like, y'all should just have it here and stay here.
Oh, yeah, that's not gonna happen. We'll be roomies for a weekend. Yeah,
We'll get nothing.
Got the boat, key to the boat, right?
Retreat in June, not in January.
yeah.
All right.
All
Do we
right,
have closed
anyways,
session?
with that, I don't think we have a closed session, so I need a motion to adjourn.
Okay, so moved.
Okay.
I know,
All's
we
in
just,
favor?
we just did the adjournment.
Aye.
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 Aye, vote. All those nay?
Bye, Bob.
Bye-bye.
11.
Thank you.
You see how many speakers? 3, 6, 9, they got 12 speakers here. They could probably tone them down a little bit, though.
I was like, wow, I'm loud.
When you speak here, it doesn't come out of these speakers, it only comes out over here. So you really can't even hear yourself.
Oh, I can hear myself. Where does it come out there?
Speakers on that half.
Oh, I can hear myself. It's
Really?
loud. I'm loud.
We all can hear you,
Yeah, you're loud.
regardless.
Kim, you project very well.
Turn this off.